Hi there, guys. Welcome to Art of War. Today we're going to be reviewing the Thousand Sons. We got our brand new magical codex. Are you excited, Michael?
Oh, I am so excited. This is going to be a very, very cool book to go over.
Oh yeah, I'm just happy we don't have Cabal points anymore. Spoilers.
So, big spoilers. There's going to be quite a few changes we're actually going to go over here.
We actually get to cast spells. This is going to be the best part of this.
All right, guys. So, remember, we are on YouTube, so remember to like, comment, subscribe, let us know what you think. And then if you're looking for more Thousand Sons content after this game, you can hop onto the War Room at .vhx.tv. There's a 3-day free trial. You can hop up there, and me and Mike are going to be putting up plenty of videos on the Thousand Sons very soon about that.
Oh yeah. So the army rule for the new Thousand Sons.
Okay, so we have the Cabal of Sorcerers. So we're back to casting spells. It's going to be pretty similar to some additions we've seen in the past. So we have 4 spells here. Each of them are going to have an associated casting cost. So for instance, we're going to have 5, 6, 7, or 9. In order to cast these spells, we're going to roll 2d6, and then if we match that number, our spell's going to resolve. However, we have a fun little ability here called Channel the Warp. So we can add an extra d6 in order to try and get that spell off after seeing the result of the first 2d6. And if there's any doubles or triples, we're going to take d3 mortals, kind of like Perils of the Warp Spectrum.
Yeah, that's fine. It's only D3.
It's only d3. It's actually not that big of a deal at all.
Yeah.
So let's go over these spells. So the first one is called Destiny's Ruin, goes off on a 5. Now, important to note, there's going to be basically 2 casting costs for each of these spells. There's going to be the basic version, and if we get it off super, we're going to get a very powerful version of the spell. The first one is select enemy within 24. Notably, these are all going to be 24 inches invisible, every single spell now.
Cool.
Reroll hit rolls of 1 for a Thousand Sons unit. Or if you get it off on a 10 or up, you get to reroll all of your hits.
So wait, we have point and click Oath of Moment.
Point and click Oath of Moment. Now, spoiler alert, 3d6, 10 to get a 10. It's actually not that difficult.
And you may be a little surprised. There might be some characters that give pluses to those tests.
There might be even other support units that get those tests too.
I could imagine at some points being 3d3 plus 3.
Might be pretty good.
That might be kind of reliable.
Pretty good. So let's get on to the next spell. So the next one's going to be Temporal Surge. Now, this is kind of a nerfed version of our old double move, but let's face it, nobody was happy when Magnus moved 32 inches. So
yeah, I was having a great time.
So now we're going to be visible in 24, and we're going to move either D6 inches, or if we get it off super in this case is going to be a 10 up, you get to move flat 6. Now, notably, any Thousand Sons unit can still do this. Now, we still have the charge restriction, so you can't move an extra 6 and then charge. So that's still kind of fine.
I do think it made that power actually fair. That power is still very good, very usable, but it's just fair now.
Yeah, absolutely. And once again, getting off a 10 on 3d6 with some bonuses is not going to be very difficult for us to do. So we can have a pretty reliable plus 6 inches movement in some cases. Doombolt. Now, this is better and a lot worse in some ways here. So 24 inches invisible, D3 mortals, it goes off on a 7. Now, notably, this is not D3 plus 3 mortals that we're used to, so that's going to be hard. But on an 11 up, we do get to keep D3 plus 3 mortals.
Yes. And again, 11 up, it's now range 24. It does have the restriction, though, that you can't target lone ops. So it's nice that's baked in there. I believe that should have...
Yeah, baked in. No FAQs needed here.
Yeah, that was just cut from the get-go.
Yeah, D3 plus 3 mortals here is going to be really quite good because we still have access to grenades. We actually have expanded grenades.
Yes.
That we'll get.
Pretty sure everything that walks has grenades.
Yeah, pretty much. Great. Yeah, so we have a fair amount of access to mortals, and spoiler alert, you can still double cast Doombolt in a sneaky little way later.
It's super fun.
Now, the last one, Twist of Fate. This is probably the most powerful out of all of them. This goes off on a 9. Now, you're going to improve all of your AP in the shooting phase by 1 whenever you shoot this target, or if you get it off on a 12 up, increase all your AP by 2. Yeah. So as we are about to jump into our datasheet reviews, remember that every single model can possibly reroll all hits. Every single model can possibly get plus 2 AP on every single attack. So every datasheet can get pretty significantly improved.
Yeah. The one thing to also note about the new army rule is the restriction of it isn't you can only attempt each spell once, you can only manifest each spell once. So if a model fails, you can just go to the next Psyker model and reattempt it. So reliably, you're probably casting all 4 powers every turn if you need to, which is really good.
Yeah. We are no longer restricted by these Cabal points, right? So your army can be down to exactly 4 sorcerers, and you can resolve every single spell in this book.
Yes,
it's amazing. It's a really, really big deal. Yeah. All right, let's just go ahead and hump over to the datasheets.
Cool.
The Army Painter is my favorite hobby company in the entire world. My desk is literally full of Army Painter products, and it takes me from being an average painter to putting above tabletop standard models out into the tournament scene. Not only that, but the Army Painter has sponsored more competitive play than any other hobby company in the industry. They allow us to keep doing the things that we do. If you enjoy the Army Painter as much as I do, head over to thearmypainter.com where you can use the discount code ARTOWAR5 to get a discount on your next order.
All right, starting off with the data sheets, we're going to start off with our grand and glorious Primarch, Mr. Magnus the Red, who still has done nothing wrong and has only improved.
Unbelievably, he has improved.
Crazily improved. So he is still the same stat line. He's still toughness 11, moves 14, 2 up, 4 up, 16 wounds, 5 up leadership, OC 6. The main things that have changed about him has been his damage output and his innate ability. So he no longer has a 6-inch aura of +1 to hit and wound. It's very sad. In exchange, though, he now can cast 2 powers each turn. Instead of everybody being restricted to 1, he can do a second one, and he gets +2 to the cast, which is crazy for the consistency. He pretty much guarantees you're going to pick 2 powers and get them off every time.
And you're going to get the super version most cases. The only one that's a little dicey is Twist of Fate, but the 10s on 3d6 are pretty easy.
Yeah. As for his other ability, his Primarch ability, you know what's shocking? They didn't change a single one.
Not a word change.
They are the exact same. He is still -1 damage to himself, except for psychic attacks. He still has a 6-inch aura of +2 to move for Thousand Sons units. And he still has the one that you were never picking anyways, the ranged attacks have hazardous targeting him. But my biggest concern was they were going to nerf him by removing the -1 damage and the +2 to move.
Yeah.
And they kept it.
Yeah, it's all there.
It is all there. He is still glorious in every way.
What's the strength on those guns now? What's the strength on those guns?
Started. So the Gaze of Magnus, which was previously range 24, 3d3 shots at 923 with dev wounds built in. It is now still dev wounds, range 24, 3d3 shots, strength 11, AP2 damage 3. So remember, it's effectively AP4.
Yeah.
With 4 rolls to hit. But going from 9 to 11, losing the -1 or the +1 to wound is still effectively being +2 to wound on most things that you were trying to get.
The T10 of the breakpoint is huge here. Right?
Yeah.
It's huge deal.
Yeah, you went from wounding a toughness 10 thing on 4s to now you're just wounding it on 3s. It's crazy. And now I think actually my favorite one, because of a little keyword they added, is the Tzeentchian Firestorm, which now has ignore cover added to it.
Big deal for that gun.
And it's also strength 6 now. So going from 5 to 6, super helpful again into all those battle tanks that he was normally shooting at.
Yeah.
Because you were wounding them on 5s anyways with a strength 5 gun at +1 to wound. You're now just wounding them 5 still. So his consistency didn't change there, but it got better because it's now ignore cover on a potentially AP3 gun.
Yeah. So as you know, we're going to end up with cover. You're going to be AP1 pretty much all the time outside of AOC scenarios, right? Which is just an overall good boost. Except, spoiler, maybe +2 AP on those guns.
Yeah, just randomly have that.
Yeah.
And going into melee, one of my favorite changes, his strike is the exact same, still 7 attacks, strength 16, AP3, damage 3. But the sweep is 14 attacks, strength 8, AP1, drum roll, damage 2.
This is such a big change. This is actually such a big deal. Now 5 little Marines can't terrorize Magnus in combat.
The amount of times where I've just swung my 7 attacks, I'm like, I nailed
2 ones.
Yep. I just can't build the unit now. Yeah. Now you can just get rid of that unit almost every time. It's so helpful. And it just is an extreme consistency buff for him in melee.
Huge deal. All right, let's switch to my favorite character, Ahriman. I love this man. Now, his gun still isn't quite as cool as I really would like, but
it's actually usable now.
It's better. It's definitely usable. It's better than it was before. Big change here. Ahriman isn't flipping between a disc or not a disc anymore. It's just always on the disc of Tzeentch.
So time to glue him to that disc.
Important to note, he has infantry and mounted keyword. I don't know what scenario this will ever matter, but he can go through walls still.
Yep.
There's no anti-mounted in the game, but he's mounted now. Yeah. Now, the Transmogrifying Blast. This is his new gun. So we have a Blast Psychic, range 18, D6 +1 shots. Hits on 2s, strength 6, AP1 for D3. Now, this is like okay at like clearing some hordes. It's certainly better than the one little sniper shot that we had before. So that was like always the big issue, right? Is that you couldn't kill more than one model with Ahriman. So that's definitely gone now. Now, his two abilities are the things that really make Ahriman actually an interesting pick. So one of them is the Scryer of Fate. So we can redeploy 3 units now. Now, this is going to become relevant as we look at some datasheets later that have infiltrate. So we can kind of do the little game of like, oh, here's my whole army in front of you and just call them all back. Right.
Yeah.
So it's a big fear tactic. This is actually a tactic Thousand Sons have actually used before. We're kind of getting that tool back, which is kind of cool.
Yep. 9th edition being able to infiltrate 10 Rubric Marines with flamethrowers away from your opponent and just being like, oh, dang, I'm just going to not put them there anymore.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, well.
I'm glad you deployed in the corner, buddy.
Yeah.
And back. And then the other one is just like his dad, he is +1 to psychic test instead of +2, but it's actually still a pretty big deal.
Yeah,
there's going to be some list in here that you actually aren't really interested in taking Magnus, but having access to Ahriman to be +1 or potentially higher with some other buffs we give him makes him another really reliable spellcaster.
And a lot of times, like on average with 3D3 dice, you're going to get like around a 9.5, something like that. So the +1 just puts you at the 10, which is the break.
Which is a perfect break point here.
Yeah.
Yeah, perfect break point. Notably, we can lead some new stuff now.
Yeah.
So we can still lead Rubric Marines. He doesn't really give them much, so there's not actually much of a reason to attach him to a Rubric Marine squad. However, he can lead Tzaangor Enlightened now.
Yes.
Now, which is a cool change, which you might actually use here.
Giving him a reactive move while he's doing funny little psychic power shenanigans is actually kind of interesting.
Yeah, or using him with Tzaangor Melee Enlightened, because don't forget, Ahriman is still a beat stick.
He's
still flat 3 damage, right? So there are some actual uses for Ahriman that are new and cool.
Yep. And also, I do believe all disc characters can now just lead to Tzaangor Enlightened.
Yes.
Which is super nice.
All disc characters. That's right.
Yep. All right. Up next, we have my personal favorite, the Infernal Master. Oh, I love this guy. This guy does so much damage all the time. And luckily for us, spoilers, we still have Arcane Vortex. As far as Infernal Master stat line goes, he is the exact same. Nothing has changed to him in any way. So what you're currently imagining for him is the exact same. Still has Flip to 6, still gives sustained hits. His flamethrower is still really good, range 18. Exact same. Now, somebody else that got a pretty good glow up is the regular Walking Sorcerer.
Regular Walking Sorcerer he's kind of a champion now.
This guy is going to clap from range. So he is still the same stat line as before. Move 6 inches, 3 up, 5 up, 4 wounds. The main difference for him is his gun. His Fires of the Abyss is now the Pandemonic Delusion, which is a range 24, 6-shot, strength 5, AP 1, damage 1, but he hits on 3s now instead of the 2s, which, don't worry, we have ways of giving +1 to hit and wound. The main strength, though, of this is it still has sustained 3. You're just guaranteeing it has 6 shots now instead of the 2d6 where you're just hoping and praying.
Which I think is a fair upgrade here. I actually think having the always 6 shots, I would rather just have.
Yeah, I would rather that because I remember the few times you roll Snake Eyes and you're like, well, I hope I roll 2 6s. The main ability he gives is he gives lethal hits to his unit, which is the same as before. But he now has a once per battle ability that works in either shooting or fight phase. You can give his psychic weapons for the rest of that phase +3 strength and +3 attacks, meaning his ranged weapon is now 9 shots at strength 8 with sustained 3. And his melee is now 7 attacks at strength 9, AP 1, D3 damage.
Yeah. Both of these are quite good. Now, notably the gun, right? When it's full rerolls to hit with sustained 3, and then maybe. Does it ignore his cover? I can't remember if it
does not ignore
okay,
cover. Okay, you'll be AP 3. So
just block 2 APs, pal. You know, we'll just get around that.
Or you somehow just make it dev wounds.
That's also true. Yeah. Maybe there's a way to do that still.
Weird how that happened.
Oh. So next up, we actually have the Exalted Sorcerer. Now, this guy actually experienced no changes, just like the Infernal Master. So he still has that 4-up invuln, he's still resurrecting Rubric Marines, and he still has the D6 Dev Wound Blast gun. Now, this gun might actually be a little more interesting now that I think about it, is that the Twist of Fate spell makes this gun AP4. Yeah, which is actually like a lot.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. So with the reroll wounds, I think this guy can probably do a good bit of damage. However, he doesn't have the range kind of like the regular sorcerers does. So I think that's kind of the main caveat with this guy.
I do think the other part that kind of hurts him is he is just D6 blast.
Yeah.
He has no pluses, so you're just living and dying by that 1d6 roll and hoping you're hitting a big unit. And I'm really kind of disappointed that his revive is still on a 2+.
Yeah.
Like rolling to 1 and you just lose a guy, maybe 2 guys, because like one might be wounded.
Yeah.
And you're just like, well, why did I even bother rolling this?
I do think the interesting synergy here, though, is with the channeling of the warp is sometimes our guys actually are going to die a little accidentally, and then this guy can kind of bring him back the next turn. So you can kind of have a constant flow going. So he has some interesting uses. I think it's going to be in about the same spot he has before. A little bit of a niche pick. He's going to have a pretty good reason for it.
I think in the new Rubric detachment, he might be very helpful because Rubric Marines walking around the board with a 4-up info might be fun.
Yes, that might actually have a pretty big deal with some other implications on that guy.
Oh, yeah.
All right, let's look at the Exalted Sorcerer on disc. So notably, as we talked about before, the Sorcerer lost the mini loan op ability.
Nice.
Now this is actually on the Exalted Sorcerer on disc, and this has some interesting implications because since he can lead the Tzaangor Enlightened now, we can actually have some sniper bricks that are actually hard to shoot back. Yeah, that's a pretty unique tool for us because that's a big issue with Thousand Sons before is that once we're kind of exposed, we're just kind of hoping
we're just
still
dying.
we're still tactical Marines at the end of the day, right?
We'll just die.
Yeah, so I think this could actually have a pretty interesting use there. Now, he did lose his 4-up invuln, so the goat's no good a 4-up invuln and many loan op and a bunch of other stuff. And he still has a good like defensive bow. Past that, Arcane Fire is the exact same, still a great flamer, still the -2 move and -2 to charge. Still a good guy even by himself.
Does the -2 to move apply to non-vehicle non-monsters or only infantry now?
Let me double check. It is just infantry now.
So it did get nerfed.
It actually did get nerfed quite a bit there. Yeah, so no mounted, no that beast. Actually,
it's such a weird thing to just be only infantry. Like I can't slow a beast, but I can slow a Space Marine standing next to them.
Yeah, so it is a bit of a downgrade. So I think the niche we're going to find this man is either he's going to be a caster that runs around by himself.
Yep.
And also to note, he actually only moves 10 now.
Oh, that's sad.
He doesn't move 12 anymore. Yeah, so no more super fun.
Does Ahriman still move 10?
Ahriman still moves 10.
Okay.
Yeah, so disc are now just flat 10 across the board.
Okay. That is easier bookkeeping.
Yeah, I think so too. It also makes it so that they're also not trying to abuse like the move 12 and then move, 6 more inches after that, where our threat ranges were, the whole board before. So
yeah,
we're reined
at least 36 inches range from that guy.
Reined in a little there.
All right. Next up, we have both of the Demon Princes. So both of these Demon Princes got substantial glow ups.
Mm-hmm.
So starting off with the walking one, he's the same defensive profile. Moves 9 inches, toughness 10, 2-up, 4-up, 10 wounds, leadership 6, 3 OC. He still has the Infernal Cannon, which, along with pretty much every other bolter in this book, is now AP2.
That's actually a big deal.
Yeah, so he's now shooting at 3 shots at 5.22. Which is
we traded 3 extra shots for the extra AP there.
So you lost 3 shots, but for the extra AP, which I think is a lot better because you at least guarantee your opponent has a worse armor, then okay, I'm in cover.
Before it didn't really do that much damage.
Yeah. So, but he also gained a new gun. So both the Walking and the Wing Demon Prince share the same gun. It's the Dark Blessing. It is range 24, 9 shots, hitting on 2s at 411, but it ignores cover and its sustain hits 1. So I think the fact that it ignores cover, and again, when we say AP1, we're really meaning it could just be AP3 with ignore cover, is going to be clearing out a lot of Space Marines and chaff.
Yeah, this is actually a pretty interesting gun for us to use. I think the Foot Demon Prince has a lot of interesting uses now because he also picked up the Lone Op within 3 inches of infantry as well, right?
He has that along with his other Walking Demon Prince brethren.
Yeah.
Which is super nice.
So being able to cast spells and hide some rubrics behind a wall on an objective or something along those lines, it's actually a really interesting tool for us, I think.
Or even him just standing next to the Tzaangor, so something cheap that can spread out across the board.
Yeah.
It's just perfectly just usable. His melee, though, also got a big buff. So his melee stat-wise, I believe, is the exact same. It's 6 attacks at 823, which is perfectly serviceable, but did gain dev wounds.
Yeah.
And the sweep is 12 attacks at 611, which also gained dev wounds.
That extra AP on the sweep, such a big deal. Once again, it was really painful having an AP0 sweep on this guy.
Yeah, it's not okay. It's thankful that he actually has AP so he can actually challenge occultists.
We can kill guardsmen now.
Yeah, it's great. And randomly, they don't even get a save just with a dev wound.
That's true.
But like you said before, he does have the Lone Op. It's the same with all the other Walking Demon Princes. His 2 abilities, though, I'll start off with the simpler one. Is the aura ability that he gives is a 6-inch aura to infantry only for stealth. So they changed it from just any Thousand Sons to just infantry only.
No more stealth, Magnus.
Oh, no. It's okay. He'll still just murder everyone. And his new ability is Spirit Snare. So this is a little complicated. Basically, how it works is each time a Thousand Sons Psyker model with the army rule, Cabal of Sorcerers, is destroyed within 9 inches of one or more models with this unit, you can select one of these models, so basically stops you from stacking it on all 3 of them if you bring 3 of them. For the rest of the game, anytime this model attempts to cast a ritual, add 1 to the result to a maximum of +2 from this rule.
This is really quite a powerful ability. Like, once it goes off,
but you have to set it up to where your own models are dying.
yeah, it's kind of a weird one. So I like that they have the synergy of the lone op ability. So he's gonna be near, like, say, a River Brain squad, which is 2 Psyker deaths normally once you lose that squad. And then all of a sudden he's as powerful as Magnus casting a spell. However, you still like lost a Rubric Brain squad to this trait,
Well,
which is
you could cheese it. Like we talked about before, you could have an Exalted unit next to him. You just allocate wounds onto the Psyker model first, or he dies from casting,
and then you
then you resurrect him back. He dies again. You just keep resurrecting him, and look, now you've gained +2.
That's actually quite that's true.
A little bit of a cheesy strat, but hey, we're about it. We're T-Sons. All right, moving on to the Winged Demon Prince. He did get a buff movement. He now moves 13 inches.
So fast.
Yes, he is very quick. I think he's 1 inch slower than the
EC one.
Yeah, the EC one. That's crazy. Toughness 9, 204 up, 10 wounds. Same thing from before. He has the same exact guns as the Walking Demon Prince, so he also has Dark Blessing and the 8B2 Infernal Cannon. His melee is also the exact same. Instead, he has Deep Strike, where his Walking Brother does not. And he has 2 brand new abilities. So the first ability he has is Hunter of Souls. Each time he targets a character unit for an attack, you can reroll hit and wound rolls of 1. If that character unit is also a Psyker unit, you can reroll all hit and wound rolls. Not only that, if he kills a character, you heal D3 wounds. If that character is also a Psyker, you heal flat 3 wounds. So that is a big consistency buff, since a lot of things you're going to shoot at, like infantry units, like Space Marines and stuff, have characters in them.
I really like this cool niche they kind of put him in, that he's like the character hunter, which makes sense for a Winged Demon Prince actually on the table, right?
Yeah.
You usually kind of like shove him off and tell him to go conquer something and move on with your life from there. And I like that. Actually, it's a pretty unique job.
He can actually go and do it now, which is nice.
Yeah, because it's we really don't have a lot of units that are fast and kind of punch good other than Magnus. And sometimes I don't want to go send Magnus to go hunt one little.
Yeah, I really don't want to send Magnus to go kill Gon's ghost.
Yeah,
I really don't want that to happen. Yeah. His other ability is actually very interesting. It's Aether Stride. So instead of it up-downing, what it now does, it says, in the turn in which this model comes in from Deep Strike, you may use Aether Stride. And when you use Aether Stride, it can be set up anywhere on the battlefield more than 3 inches horizontally, but per the data slate is 6 inches now. The book just says 3. So it can be set up within 6. Its Dark Blessing weapon gains sustain D3 instead of sustain 1. And the only drawback is you cannot charge this turn.
I think that's okay, honestly. Like the sustain D3, possibly rerolling all our hits here and ignoring cover. That gun can like pop off a lot, right?
Yeah.
Anytime we have sustained or lethals in this book, with addition to the Oaths rule, I mean, it just makes that gun so much better.
Well, also, depending on what you're targeting, you may not even need to use it on an Oath.
That's true if you're looking for a character.
If you're shooting at a character unit, he's hitting on 2s, rerolling 1s, you're sure. You're basically removing any inconsistency there, and then you're adding to it because you're now sustained D3.
Yeah.
Also, another very interesting thing that you could do, it'd be very niche situations, but it says anytime he uses the Deep Strike ability, meaning you could rapid ingress him, then use Aether Stride, and you definitely get a 6-inch rapid ingress.
That is true. A 6-inch rapid ingress is actually a really big deal for us.
Yep. And especially he is an OC3 model, so if somebody just has like, in Death Guard, the tally manages 1 OC, and normally his sole purpose is staying on your home objective.
Yeah.
6-inch Deep Strike with an OC3, you could just guarantee primary for your next turn.
And he's just going to kill him too.
Yeah, exactly.
It's just great.
Yeah, it's a great rule, and I think he adds a new dynamic, like you were saying, to most list building.
It's a really unique tool, which I really like about a lot of the data sheets here. They have very unique abilities. All right, next up we have the Sorcerer in Terminator armor. So this guy is pretty much the same across the board. He still gives lethals to his friends. However, his Marked by Fate ability is significantly changed here. Notably, before I gave the reroll hit rolls of 1, but that kind of has counter synergy with our new spell.
You don't right anymore.
So now, after this unit's shot, you can now make a enemy unit +1 to hit for your whole army. Now, the issue is that this is after his unit shoots, right? Because this guy really wants to be with like 10 Terminators, give him lethals, do the whole thing. But then you get the buff after, and mostly Rubric Marines are like using flamers and they're kind of torrenting and auto hitting. I think this really lands in a bit of an awkward spot. I think you're bringing him for the lethals on the Terminators more than anything.
I think you either do that or you bring him as a solo character in certain detachments, like a vehicle detachment or something, where you could drop him in. I believe there's a loan off enhancement.
There is. That's right.
And he could just have loan off, shoot something, and then the rest of your vehicles and that's one just get +1 to hit, which is very reliable.
Yeah. So overall, I think he's still also in about the same spot as before. I think you're going to sometimes put on some Terminators, has some new picked up tools, and overall just a good data sheet most of the time. Yeah. Now let's go to the new thing. Sekhetar robots.
Ooh.
These guys are really cool, actually. They have another, once again, a unique tool that this army hasn't had before. So let's just start off with the defensive profile. So we are going to move 8 inches. We're toughness 6. We have a 3-up armor save, a 5-up invul, 4 wounds, leadership 7, which for a robot, actually, I think is pretty good.
Yeah, that's fine.
And OC 1 each.
Why do they move 8?
They're so fast.
Quick, and then they get +2 to move from it. They're moving 10 inches.
So fast. That's why, like, it's so fast. They have 4 different ranged weapon options here. So we have a heavy warp flamer, which is going to be range 12, D6 shots, strength 5, AB2 for 1. So a little bit better of a regular flamer.
Okay.
We have the Hellfire missile right. This is actually the exact same as the Terminators. So it's going to be range 36. Now notably, we hit on 4s though. Strength 10, AP2 for 3, 2 shots. We have a Pyroflux Melt-A-Gun, a new gun to the T-Suns range. So
Melt-A-Gun.
Yeah, we have a Melt-A-Gun. So range 12, 1 shot, hits on a 4, strength 10, AP4 for D6. This is a slightly better Melt-A-Gun.
Or it could be AP6, guys. It could be AP6. It could be AP6.
No tank is surviving this, right?
It is going through. You can AOC all you want.
The Warp Flame Projector is also like a little tiny baby flamer. So it's D3 shots, strength 3, AP1 for 1. This combos with the Power Claw melee option. So we have a new melee weapon as well here. It's going to be 3 attacks, hitting on 4, strength 10,
Okay.
AP2 for 2. So you actually have quite a few different ways you can build this, right? So you can have like a full gun line robot, or you can have like a little skirmishy guy out in the middle. And then notably, our ability is infiltrators and stealth.
Why do they have both of those rules? Yeah, that is so weird.
Infiltrators is actually quite a big deal with Ahriman, as you were talking about before, right? Like being able to like take a bunch of robots and then stage them out of the middle of the board, and you can like really threaten like a bunch of flamers, possibly standing on objective, fighting other trash units. These guys are really good at killing other trash units.
Oh yeah,
like really good at it. And then we also have another ability still. We're going to be, once per battle round, we can fire Overwatch or Heroic Intervention for free.
Yeah, that's really good, especially when they all come with a strength 5 AP2 flamer.
Yeah, like this is just good. You can take them in units of 2 to 4.
Okay.
Right? So 4 of these guys is 46 flames. It's like how many?
8 missiles.
8 missiles. Yeah. And then if you decide to take the Melt-A-Gun, 4 Melt-A-Gun or 12 of the Power Claw attacks.
Yeah. Can they be led? I think that's one of the main things that a lot of people have been wondering.
I have no friends. They have no
They have
friends.
no friends. They can't be led.
Can't be led by anyone, actually. Yeah, that's kind of the sad thing with these guys, because I think it would be really nice to see like a sorcerer leading around like a bunch of cool robots.
That's what I initially thought. I thought they were going to be like bodyguards.
Yeah.
That, like got a bunch of buffs or something if a character's with them or something. So it's a little sad that you can't have them in the unit, but I think they're still going to be very useful depending on points.
And I like the models.
Oh,
I think they're cool. I think they're cute little guys.
No, I like them. I think part of the reason that people didn't like them as much was because of the paint scheme. They looked really rough and like dirty and scratched up. I think once you get your hands on the models and you paint them up and everything, and
Slap
you make
that
them
gold trim on.
there
You
go.
just need the gold.
Yeah, see?
They're gonna look like a beautiful little thousand.
Yeah, we don't need any of this tan. We needed the gold.
Exactly. That's exactly what it is. So yeah, this is a model I'm really excited about to put on the table.
Yeah.
And I definitely have some ideas of how I think we can use these.
Oh, yeah. So going over probably the biggest glow up for a unit is the Scarab Occult Terminators. One key difference that has changed for both them and Rubrics is their aspiring sorcerers all gain an additional wound, which is a very good break point.
Yeah,
Going
they're really
from
nice.
4 and 3 wounds is nice.
Yeah, especially since there's so many 3 damage weapons in the game right now, the Terminator being able to take 2, I mean, that's a huge deal.
Yeah. I think, especially if you have a character leading it, there may just be a time where you're just like, I really don't want to lose my missile rack or like my Reaper cannon.
Mhm.
Yeah, I'll just take an extra damage 3 on this guy to save another Terminator.
And notably, these guys are going to be a little bit harder to kill than they used to be.
Oh, yes. So their old rule was while a Psycho model was in the unit, they were -1 to be wounded when targeted by something greater. The standard -1.
Standard Terminator rule, basically.
Yeah. They are now, while a Psycho model is in the unit, -1 to wound all the time.
This is a huge deal against
Yes.
like random like bolters that are like have higher AP. I
Yeah.
mean, Meltaguns win these guys on 4s if they're strength 9 or below. Like,
Yeah.
this is just a flat, huge upgrade.
Well, even just your regular Meltaguns or like
plasma guns.
plasma guns, or even just bolters are wounding you on 6s now. Most random melee, like if an orc unit charges you, I believe they're strength 5 on the charge.
Strength 5.
So they're wounding you on 5s.
Yeah.
Which is just a huge difference.
These are super tough guys, and they're definitely going to fill a little more of that, like, go into the middle and stand on circles gap that we kind of lack.
Yeah, they definitely will do that job way better. As far as range weapons go, their weapons are the exact same as before, minus the bolters are all AB2 now.
And the full Reaper
can
cannons, yeah.
AB2. Reaper cannons also still dev wounds. Malefic Curse, which was the Warp Smite previously, is range 24 now. Still 3 attacks, hitting on 3s, strength 4, AP3 damage 1, anti-infantry 4 up dev wounds. So that still stays the same. You're probably shooting that every time you activate.
Yeah, and I really like that it also lost the pistol keyword here. That's
Yes.
a big deal for Rubrics, but a buff for Terminators, right? Because you didn't get to fire your bolter when you had to cast the psychic spell, right? So now you get your bolter and your psychic spell.
Yep.
Overall, like, actually just a good little upgrade for these guys.
Yeah, it's definitely a buff for the Terminators, but sadly a nerf for
I think a nerf
the
for Rubrics.
Speaking of Rubrics,
Unbelievably, the Rubric Marine got better. Yeah, shockingly, this model actually got better. So we move base 6 now. We got our +1 inches back.
huge.
Actually a huge deal, especially when you're looking at +2 move from Magnus, plus disembarking, plus our double move spell. It's an actual double move for these guys, right? Like, these guys can go quite fast and quite far. The other big change, like we talked about, is the Aspiring Sorcerer has the 3 wounds now, which is quite nice. And then the Icon of Flame has changed. This is probably the most important part here, is that it's no longer on wound rolls of 6 do you get an extra AP. It's just all the guns ignore cover, except for character models that are leading them.
Which I think that's fair. If you just started giving the characters ignore cover,
Infernal Master, AP2, ignoring cover all of a sudden.
Before ignoring cover.
This is a very smart, chop a head off the snake before it's a problem.
Foresaw that one.
Yeah. Now, the guns, bolt guns are AP2 now.
Yep.
24 inches. There is an actual reason to take these guys now.
Yes.
Especially since their AP2 ignores cover, right? Like, this is like a really good break point. The Soul Reaper Cannon now also 24 inches AP2. The Malefic Curse is the exact same that we just talked about with the Terminators. So these guys can function actually at 24 inches. You don't have to get these guys up into the Flamer range. You don't have to take Flamer Rubrics. You can have a whole new job for these guys, because the regular Sorcerers also got a 24-inch gun.
Yep. And gives them lethal now.
And gives them lethal with 4 reels to hit on your bolt guns. It's like a real choice now you actually get to make.
Yeah, like realistically, you can just fish for lethals if you want, and then you're just shooting. If you bring a 10-man, it's 16 shots, because you have the character and the Reaper Cannon separate. It'll be 16 shots at 4-4-1.
Yeah.
With lethal ignore cover. Just 4 rolling to hit. It's just like,
just good.
Okay.
That kills.
Sorry, Land Raider.
Most everything? Like, don't know what that's bad into. Yeah. The other most important change here is that the wound roll mechanic is the exact same. We roll wound rolls of 1 all of the time, and then 4 rolls on objectives you don't control.
Yeah. I really wish they gave us the better version of it, like the Necron Immortal one. But you know what? I'm just happy they didn't make it worse.
It's not worse.
Yeah.
I'll take it.
I'll take what we have, especially since everything else got better.
Everything else got better. So if you're a Rubric Marine enjoyer, you should rejoice, because they are not leaving the tabletop anytime soon.
Nope. They are very good, and especially with their whole new detachment dedicated to
new detachment.
Alrighty, guys. So now we're going to go over both the Chaos Predator Destructor and the Annihilator. Let's go ahead and start off with the Destructor first. It is the same profile defensively and movement-wise as it was previously. And again, it follows the same pattern as the rest of the bolt gun weapons in this book, where they are all AP2. The key difference here now is its new ability in Scroll Destruction says each time this model makes a ranged attack that targets a unit excluding monsters and vehicles that was previously hit by one or more psychic attacks, including Doombolt, improve the strength and armor penetration characteristic of those ranged attacks by 1. So effectively, you now have Strength 6, AP 3, Damage 2 heavy bolters that are still sustain hits 1 that you could reroll all hits on, and you could just make AP 5 if you really wanted to. Or its autocannon is now going to be a 4-shot rapid fire 2, Strength 10, AP 2 could be AP 4, Damage 3 gun.
I don't see any problems here.
No, it's perfectly fine.
This is totally fine tank that just, cuts through every armor in the game.
I think it could use some more buffs.
I actually think,
I think they went a little underhanded. I think they could have done more.
If this is not 100 points, untakeable.
I think in the back of the book, it's like 150, which, to be honest, I still think I'm pretty much going to take.
Oh, yeah. You're definitely finding a home for these tanks. Because that's what this is one of the best parts to highlight about our new Cabal spells is that we're not just locked into the Psychers anymore.
Yeah.
Like the Thousand Sons keyword works with our spells.
Yep.
Right? So these tanks can actually go out and do stuff. If you're an enjoyer, like you want to do some cool magic stuff, but you don't want 50 Rubric Marines on the table, you have a very good home.
Yeah. If you want to run a Magic Storm and just bring a bunch of tanks and have just one sorcerer in your entire list whose sole job is to give you full rerolls to hit, sure, you could do that if you wanted.
Only if there was a detachment that benefited that exact playstyle. Oh my goodness.
Well, that's a spoiler. You can't get there yet. All right, moving on to the Predator Annihilator. This is going to be the anti-monster and anti-vehicle Predator. So again, previously mentioned, all bolters are additional AP, so they're all a lot better. Its new rule is in Scrolled Annihilation, and it's each time it makes a ranged attack that targets a monster or vehicle, and the same as the one before, that was targeted by a psychic attack or Doombolt. You can reroll the hit roll and the damage roll. And the funny thing is about this vehicle is it's twin lascan and it's twin linked. So that thing is rerolling everything.
Just full rerolls.
Just full rerolls. It can shoot at whatever it wants. It doesn't need to shoot at your oath target.
Nice.
Because it can just do whatever it wants.
Which is an important thing to be able to do, right? Because that's something Space Marines sometimes struggle with, is are really good at killing the oath target and then they kind of fall off after that. But now we have a little bit of recursion.
Is this just a better Ballistus Dreadnought?
Oh, yeah. It's definitely a better Ballistus Dreadnought. And it's probably going to be cheaper, too.
Yeah, you're going to have effectively 3 las cannon shots, or you can even just put the heavy bolters and just say, I'm going to shoot a bunch of strength 5, AP 2, damage 2 into you with sustain hits, rerolling all hits.
Just fine.
Yeah. And you still have your twin link las cannon. Yeah, this thing is just going to melt.
Yeah.
It's very good.
These tanks got a pretty huge glow up altogether.
And you know what tank got the biggest glow up?
Our best friend, the Chaos Rhino.
The BFF.
Now, notably, as we talked about before, the Cabal Sorcerers, we're not generating Cabal points anymore, which means being in a Rhino in the command phase
doesn't detriment our army.
Yeah, it's not a big deal
weird.
at all. So you can put a Rhino on the table and not feel bad about yourself anymore.
Yeah, see, there you go. You're actively not making your army worse.
Now, what if I also told you you can make your army better by using this Rhino?
How was that, Mike?
So the Sorceress support. Now, in the shooting phase, after this model is shot, select one enemy unit hit by one of the weapons on this model.
Sure.
And then any friendly models that disembark from this transport this turn are +1 to hit and +1 to win with all psychic weapons.
That seems really, really, really good for your characters that are with those Rubric Marines that are already rerolling wounds.
It's almost like this was like a core mechanic of our army before that was gone from Magnus.
And now we just get it on a measly little humble Rhino.
I know.
Yeah, weird.
So we're unchanged for Magnus.
Yeah.
Our Rubric Marines can go forth and conquer. So we can have a significantly more explosive play style specifically from this Rhino.
Hey, and you know what the best part is? That Rhino solo replaces all of the Hex Warp detachment.
It does. Actually, it does. It replaces a whole detachment rule, doesn't it?
It's weird. Now I just have one Rubric Marine in a Rhino, get out, and I am now all of Hex Warp Thrallband.
Ugh. Only if we could put a whole detachment in one single transport for other armies.
Yeah, weird.
Now let's look at the Chaos Vindicator. This is honestly just the Vindicator that you know and love. There's really nothing too crazy here. It can shoot into combat as if before because it has the Siege Shield. And it can get 4 rolls to hit, which is notably something Space Marines love to do, and they love these guys. So I'm going to guess 2 AP. So maybe you want an AP5 shovel cannon.
Yeah, we could just do that. Just pick it up.
Another very good tank, another very good profile for us to use, and has another really good place in the army.
Yeah. All right, next up, we're going to have the Land Raider. So Land Raider is a Land Raider. That's pretty much the same thing you know and love. Give your Terminators the ability to charge out of it once it's finished moving. Nothing crazy there. Next up, we have the Helbrute. Big change. He does move 8 inches. Outside of that is pretty much the same. He did get 2 new rules. The first one is Terrifying Assault. In your shooting and fight phase, after this model has shot or fought, select one enemy unit hit by one or more of those attacks. It must take a Battle Shock test, subtracting 1 if it's within 9 or more inches of one of your Psyker units. Cool.
Yeah. He's okay.
His other ability is, if his models are good with 2 melee weapons, he gets +2 attack to those 2 weapons. I don't think you ever bring a Helbrute.
I think he's still sitting on the table.
Yeah, I think he just exists in a void on your shelf.
Yeah, unless he gets like ludicrously undercosted.
Yeah.
All right, so we're going to look at the Forgefiend and the Maulerfiend now. Now, our Forgefiends are the exact same as before, just notably with our new spell upgrades. These guys can slam a little bit harder. And then if we compare this to the Maulerfiend, though, this is kind of where we start to get into trouble. So the melee units in this book are kind of lacking some support, right?
Yeah.
All of our spells are in the shooting phase, and there's not a lot of ways to make ourselves hit better in the fight phase, other than just kind of the good already fight profiles.
And just hoping your detachment helps.
Yeah, and that's about it. So this Maulerfiend is just like any other Maulerfiend, and I think he's really going to struggle in this book.
Yeah. What's his new rule?
Oh, that's right. He does have a slightly new rule. So you can target this model with a heroic intervention stratagem for 0 CP.
Cool.
And can do so even if you've already targeted a different unit. In addition, each time this model declares a charge that targets an enemy unit within range of 1 or more Thousand Sons Codex units, you can reroll the charge roll. So you're probably going to like heroic into like say like a Psyker model, and then you can reroll that heroic intervention, which is kind of cool. So it's a slightly more advantageous heroic.
Yeah. You just actually get to reroll it now.
Yep. And that's about it with this guy.
Yeah. I don't think you're really going to take him too often. I think you have better melee threats via Magnus or Vortex Beast.
Yeah, exactly.
Or even the walking goats. The goat robots.
Yeah, this guy is definitely competing in a very similar like Mutalith Vortex Beast spot. Yeah, which we're gonna get to him. Don't worry.
Oh yeah.
The Defiler actually has a pretty interesting ability here. It has the same smattering of guns that every other Defiler has, except our bolters are AP2, which is kind of nice.
Yeah.
So we have Destroyer of Futures. Each time you target this unit with the Fire Overwatch stratagem, hits are scored on unmodified hit rolls of 5 when resolving this stratagem. For each of those attacks that target an enemy unit within 9 or more Thousand Sons Psyker units from your armor, you can actually Overwatch on a 4.
That's actually not that bad.
This is a very interesting rule. I'd be very curious to see if this guy can find a home somewhere with such a actually pretty good ability, because you can put a lot of guns on him.
Yeah, that's actually not that bad to have, especially with like the kind of guns he has.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's not bad.
Yeah, the big question always with the Defiler is like, can you really move this guy around?
Yeah.
He can move over friendly monsters' vehicles and terrain that's less than 4 inches tall, so you can kind of maneuver around a little.
What's his move characteristic?
He moves 8.
That's still kind of hard to move. He's a pretty big dude.
Yeah, it's kind of the same issue with like Soul Grinders at the end of the day. No access to Deep Strike here, though, makes them like a lot worse than a Soul Grinder in a lot of ways. So you're going to really bring this guy for the Overwatch mechanic, right? Yeah, it's like really the big deal here.
No, fair. All right, next up we have the Heldrake. Heldrake is the exact same. There's nothing changed here, which makes me very sad. My Heldrake dreams are now dead.
Yeah, there's no Heldrake dreams here.
His Flamer, I believe, was always D6 plus 3, but just in case it wasn't, it's D6 plus 3 at 622, which is still good.
Good Flamer.
Autocannon with 4 rolls to hit is not the worst. 6 shots at 822, effectively 842. Could be nice, but again, I think you're just going to take a AP4 Flamer over this.
And the Predators also just shoot better than that.
Oh yeah, and way cheaper. And his ability is still, whenever he ends a normal move, you pick a unit that you flew over and you remove cover. Half of your weapons ignore cover are AP 1,000,000, so it doesn't matter.
Just not filling a job out for the army here anywhere.
Too expensive, too hard to use because it has no OC or anything like that.
Yeah.
Just can't really challenge much. Moving on to the Chaos Spawn. So the Chaos Spawn, unlike the rest of our brethren, are the exact same. We kept the same rule where we heal. They move 8. We still have our 5-up invuln. The only difference is our heal mechanic is no longer D3 each command phase. It's flat 3.
So just always back to full.
Yep.
Which is nice. Nice little upgrade.
No, I'm definitely going to take that rather than you randomly roll a 1 and you're like, well, this sucks.
Yeah.
All right. And moving over to the Tzaangor Shaman. So he moves 10 inches. His toughness 4, has a 5-up armor and 5-up invuln, 4 wounds, and all discs now are OC2, by the way. If we didn't mention that earlier. His ranged weapon, Baleful Devotion, is still the funniest gun in the world.
It's still the funniest gun in the world.
It is D6 shots, hitting on 3s at strength 9, AP 0, 1 damage. But it is blast and dev wounds, so that's always funny.
It's still really cute.
It's still very cute, but just randomly strength 9. His ability, while he is leading a unit, he gives that unit +1 to hit. That is the same. His new ability is while this model is leading a unit in your shooting and the fight phase. Each time that unit is selected to shoot or fight, this model can use his ability, and if it does, select one bodyguard model in that unit. That bodyguard model is destroyed, and until the end of the phase, add D3 to the attacks and strength characteristic of psychic weapons equipped by this model. This is cute.
It's cute.
It's now could be a strength 12 AP 0 damage 1 gun.
Yeah. Not really going to do much with that. However, it does highlight a kind of a new theme that we're going to encounter in the Thousand Sons book, which is sacrifice for power.
Those goats got to go boom.
All right. Next up, we have Tzaangor Enlightened. Now, which is kind of an upgrade for the spear guys. We're now actually split into 2 data sheets. So we have Tzaangor Enlightened with spears and Tzaangor Enlightened with bows. Tzaangors with spears have the exact same melee profiles before. So it's going to be that lance, precision, 3 attacks, hitting N4s, strength 5, AP 1 for 2. The other new ability we have here is the charge mortals. So each time this unit ends a charge move, select one enemy unit within engagement range of it, then roll a 1d6 for each model in this unit that is within engagement range. A notable restriction for us because our pieces are actually pretty big.
Okay, so it's the JPI impact.
Exactly. Okay. So having 6 Enlightened base to base might be kind of tough, but having like a little 3-man do a couple charge mortals, pretty reasonable.
3-man with the character.
Yep. Now, as we talked about before, these guys now can be led by those Exalted Sorcerers and Ahrimans. They do have a character other than the Shaman.
Yes, which is very helpful.
Yeah. It's going to be the most helpful, I think, with the bow set of...
Oh, yes.
The bow goats picked up some pretty big upgrades.
They go hard.
They go so hard. So the Fatecaster bow is now ignores cover, lethals, and precision. And we're still range 30, still 2 attacks, still hit on 4s, strength 5, AP 2 now for 2.
Wild.
This is a very, very good profile when you stack it with all the other buffs we have.
So are you telling me that I can have a 18-inch lone-op, 6-man goat unit led by a character that could slow a unit if needed and shoot out and kill an entire Space Marine unit from 30 inches away?
And, you know, snipe out those characters if it matters.
Yeah.
First.
And kill the character too.
And kill the character
But that's 12 shots with 4 rerolls to hit at 5-4-2, ignore cover with lethal precision.
Damn.
What the heck?
This is a really, really good shooting profile. And we still kept the reactive move. It is the exact same. So you can be 18-inch mini lone op with a reactive move.
It's crazy.
Like, this is a really, really good unit. I'll be very curious to see possibly what detachment these guys might have a home there.
What if they got +1 to wound?
What if they +1 to wound in that?
Crazy.
That would be pretty crazy.
They would never do that.
They would never do something like that, right? Then we have the regular old Tzaangor, right? These guys actually, I think, got a good upgrade. I think they got significantly improved. So there are some downsides. We are no longer OC2 on Tzaangors, and we're not battle line anymore. However, we are now Scout 6, and we have the Scout Uppy Downy ability. I'm going to read it specifically because there are some important restrictions here.
Okay.
So at the end of your opponent's turn, if this unit is more than 6 inches horizontally away from all enemy units, you can put this unit and place it back into strategic reserves.
Okay.
So the 6-inch bubble is kind of a big deal, especially since this is more of a screening unit. So it's probably going to be pretty easy to shut that down. However, it's in your backfield screening,
which is helpful.
And then you can pick it up, right? So now the Tzaangors aren't trapped back there like round 4 or something like that. Yeah, you can kind of bring them out, go for a cool charge, and do something good there.
Yeah.
And then noticeably, their warrior abilities are the exact same, actually. You can reroll advances and charges, and their leadership is still improved by 1.
Okay. I believe that the Tzaangor blades got nerfed. I think they're AP 0 now.
Tzaangor blades are AP 0 now.
Lame.
True. Yeah, I honestly think Chainswords might be better. Yeah. Because you get an extra attack, but 1 less strength. But an extra attack spread out over the course is probably a little bit better.
I think volume at that point. They're Tzaangors. Like, they're not really going to go and kill the Space Marine unit.
Their one
They're-
mission is to kill cultists.
Yeah, and you wound cultists on 3s with a strength 4 melee attack, and you wound them on 3s with a strength 5 melee attack.
Yeah.
It's the exact same, you just get more attacks. All right, and last but not least for our Thousand Sons units, the Mutalith Vortex.
I think this is the true king of
This guy is crazy good, especially when we get to the detachments. This guy goes insane. He is the GOAT.
Yeah, he is the goat here.
So defensively and stat line wise, he is the exact same. Nothing has changed there, and thankfully he is still OC4, which is hilarious.
Still OC for him.
Now, he did change with both his melee and range. Also, he did keep his 5-buff Feel No Pain, which is super nice. His ranged attacks are now as follows. The blast profile is still range 24, d6 plus 3 blast, hitting on 3s at 922. So that one stayed the same.
Mhm.
Next, the beam, aka the railgun, is now range 36.
This is another really big deal for us.
I am no longer being held back by a 24-inch railgun. I am shooting this across.
You can
the board.
shoot the whole table now.
The one drawback is it's only AP3 instead of AP4.
Oh,
so
no.
its stat line is still a single shot, hitting on 3s, strength 18, AP3. Let's just make it AP5. At D6 plus 6 with dev wounds still. It is crazy. And the final one also got a glow up. It's the Flamer. Still has Ignore Covering Torrent, 18 inches instead of 12, at 2d6, strength 6, AP1 damage 1.
I don't know who thought that we needed an 18-inch Mutalith Flamer. That is bananas.
I've been writing letters to Santa.
Well,
It's on my Christmas list.
crazy. The Mutalith now can pretty much activate every single turn with whatever profile I want.
It's great. And speaking of which, it's melee. Got a lot more consistent.
got way more consistent.
So the sweep profile, just he's attacking with the maw, is 15 attacks, strength 7, AP 0, damage 1.
Mhm.
Same.
Same.
Still great at clearing out all that chaff. Now, the strike, the Mutalith claws, is 5 attacks, hitting on 3s, strength 10 now, AP 2, and fairly adjusted down to damage 3 instead of 4.
I'd rather take the strength upgrade
Yes.
here because the strength 9 was so awkward.
Wounding rhinos on 4s was miserable.
Miserable.
All right. Now his abilities. He still maintains the exact same mortal wound ability as before.
Notably, I think it has the aura tag now. Did it have the aura tag?
It did before.
Okay,
You couldn't-
so that stayed the same.
It's the same at end of the movement. You roll d6 for each enemy unit within 6. On a 2 to 3, they suffer 1 mortal wound. 4 to 5, they suffer d3. And on a 6, they suffer d6. And they have to take a battle shock after that. So exact same, super cool for just passive damage, which just adds to even more of a reason why these guys are great. And the best ability now, instead of giving double range to your cast, which you don't really need anymore, your range 24 base,
Range 24 is great.
it's now whenever you decide to channel the warp within 6 inches of this model. So channel the warp, just to be clear, is just rolling that third dice. It's not to your normal test. It is just, I've decided to add the third dice. You get +1 to your psychic test.
So Magnus is possibly 3d6
+3.
plus 3.
And any psyker is 3d6 +1, which, like we talked about earlier with Ahriman, is a great break point.
It's a great break point.
So he basically guarantees most of your normal super cast and guarantees Magnus is pretty much getting
Whatever he wants off.
super Doombolt and super Death Axe or Twist of Fate. I think
So the
it's called
Mule
now.
shoots farther.
Yep.
Is just as tough.
Yep.
Does technically a little more damage now.
Yeah,
And also provides a really powerful utility spell for us.
he's the GOAT.
He is the GOAT.
Just the GOAT, man. All right. And as for the demons that are included in this book, I'm going to just go over which demons are included. We're not going to go over these. If you would like to see the demon data sheets, they're the same as when they were updated in the previous data slate. Please feel free to check out our demon tier list and demon data sheet review. For the demon units that are going to be in the Thousand Sons Codex, we have Karos Fate Weaver, Lord of Change, Flamers, Screamers, Pink Horrors, and Blue Horrors. That is all we have. We do not have any other characters, no chariots, nada.
I think it's a good core for us. It's a good suite.
I think the biggest thing just to note is everything got its OC drop by 1. So Pink Horrors are OC 1 instead of 2, and Blue and Brimstones are OC 0.
That's like super rough.
That is actually crazily rough.
Yeah.
It's not, I don't even think I want to take those
I
now.
can't imagine taking a blue horn. I do like that Kairos gives the CP. I actually think
Yes.
that's some pretty interesting because notably, as we talked about before, yeah, there is no unit that gives extra CP. And we lost the spell to reduce a strat by 1. So Kairos is the only way to access extra ACP in this book.
But you can only take him in 1 detachment. I don't think I want to run the detachment.
Probably not.
All right. So now that we've gone over the data sheets, let's get ready to go over all the brand new detachments.
Okay, the first detachment we are going to talk about here is the Grand Coven. So this is going to replace Cult of Magic, essentially. A lot of the core pieces of this detachment are actually going to be pretty similar. I'm going to go over the detachment rule first because this is probably the biggest change to this detachment.
Yes, it is a huge change.
All right, so we have the detachment rule here, Kindred Sorcery. So how this is going to work now is in your command phase, you're going to select one of the abilities from the list below. This will be active in your command phase until the start of your next command phase. You can use each of these once per battle. So no more 5 rounds of dev wounds. That's gone.
That was my favorite. But what do we get instead?
These 3 abilities are pretty powerful, honestly, in comparison. So the first one is you're going to add 6 inches to the range characteristics of any ranged psychic weapons in your army. I really like this for the early turns of the game.
Super helpful.
Like Magnus at 30 inches, Infernal Masters at 24, Sorcerers at 30 inches.
Yeah.
Like in the early game trading and trying to hit the trash before you commit, I think this is a really great ability.
Yeah, it was so annoying when you had to just like debate, all right, do I want to put a Rubric Marine out super close so I can have my Infernal Master clear the chaff in the front? Now it's just, okay, I'm 24 inches away. I don't care. Or I'm even more. Because I think we still have our plus range strat in there.
We do have our plus range strat. It's actually a little bit different. It's powerful in some ways.
It's pretty good. A fusion, one might say.
The other 2 abilities we have here is Psychic Maelstrom. This is going to be just like the old one. You're +1 to wound for all your psychic weapons. So great. And then the last one is going to be also familiar, Wrath of the Materium. Psychic weapons equipped by Thousand Sons models. Now the Devastating Wounds ability. Still great.
I will take that on my go turn every time.
Yeah, I like being able to have, honestly, 2 go turns here, I would say, is honestly a pretty big deal. Because after you use the Rhino abilities, right, the Rhinos are probably going to die after, also you can't like bark or anything along those lines.
That's when you switch over to the plus.
Yeah, so it's probably going to be like, set up your Rhinos, go, disembark, activate Dev Wounds that turn, and then on the next turn, you can be +1 to wound as well, so you can have a pretty steady flow of damage, which I kind of like.
Oh yeah, this army is going to be dishing out so much damage so consistently.
Yeah, that is definitely a very big change from before, is that sometimes it was kind of a little random where you had to pump a lot of CP into something. Now we just kind of do all the damage all the time.
And I do like the fact that we can just activate the +1 against like knights.
Yeah. And I like that we're now not chained to Magnus anymore.
Yeah.
Right? So we're not like sitting in the little bubble to get our +1 to wound. Everyone actually
are broken.
Yeah, the shackles are broken. We can go anywhere we want now.
We're now chained to Rhinos. You know what? It's a trade-up.
It's definitely a trade-up. The enhancements here are 2 are going to look pretty similar. 2 are going to look kind of new. So the first one's Lord of Forbidden Lore. This does not let us double cast rituals anymore. This is going to add 6 inches to the range of whenever we resolve a ritual. You hope this one's like 10 points and you have 10 points left over, you're going to use it sometimes.
And even then, I still don't think you bring that one.
Yeah, it's okay. Now, Intandium is Exalted Sorcerer model only. So it's going to be the disc guy or the foot guy. Once per battle, when selecting a ritual for the bearer to attempt, you can select Doombolt, even if a model from your army has already manifested this ritual this phase. The issue is here is the once per battle. Yeah. If you could do this every turn, I'd actually be very interested in bringing a model for this, but the once per battle is kind of rough.
Also, I think the other issue is Exalted Sorcerer.
Exalted. Yeah. They're not... You don't have a lot of incentive to bring these guys in this one, except the disc guys, though they still are kind of useful.
Yeah, little objective monkeys running around that can just fire a second Doom Bolt. Yeah.
So once again, you're probably going to hope this one's kind of cheap, and you might just slap it on a little disc guy, and he can do this whole per game. Yeah. Now, Umbrella of Crystal, exact same. No changes. Still going to be great.
I think there is one key change. You cannot leave engagement range now.
Ooh, let me look at.
So you can't just pop out of combat after you get charged by the orcs, and you're like, oh, I want to run now. Nope, you are stuck there.
That is exactly correct. There is an engagement range restriction now.
Yeah, exactly.
This is a pretty big nerf, actually. I would say to that.
Well, that enhancement is still really good.
So amazing.
Being able to choose to up down after you've drawn your cards and you no longer lose Cabal points.
Yeah.
So I'm like, you know what? To be fair, I'll take that trade-off. Like, I'll just position better.
Yep, exactly. Or sometimes this might be like a Rubric Marine that kind of got left behind or something along those lines, screening or something, and you can just kind of bring it back to the front. Now, whatever the old upgrade was, now is called the Eldritch Vortex of Ataf, whatever that name is.
Tell me what it does, Michael. Tell me what it does.
All that matters is what it does. Is a Thousand Sons model may add 1 to the strength and damage characteristic of psychic weapons equipped with it.
Arcane Vortex is alive and well, buddy.
Super Infernal Master is staying home.
Oh, yeah.
Now, notably, he doesn't get dev wounds every turn, right? But
Doesn't matter. I'll take it.
he may have the ability to give this guy dev wounds every turn anyway.
You don't say.
Let's skip ahead to the stratagems really quick, right? And then we'll just go ahead and skip over to Egotistical Power.
Oh.
1 CP, your command phase. 1,000 Sons Psyker unit from your army. Go over back to that list, select the Imbued Manifestation, Psychic Maelstrom, or Wrath of Immaterium ability. And that unit is in that Psychic Doctrine until the next turn.
So it's
Or
not
not next turn, next command phase.
Okay. So what you're telling me is our index attachment that has dev wounds, +1 to wound, and +6 in range is Gladius Space Marines.
Gladius Space Marines, that's right.
But we just kill everything instead of having fun little tricks.
That's exactly right.
I like it. I like violence. This is fun.
Yeah. This detachment is all about making the psychic weapons just kill everything.
Yes.
Now, Psychic Dominion, that 4 feel no pain against psychic abilities and damage. Exact same. No changes here.
Okay.
The Destined by Fate, the Blanka failed save on a Thousand Sons Psyker model, is also the exact same. Notably, there's a new little paragraph here regarding if you're using fast dice rolling, the stratagem can still be used after rolling multiple saving throws at once.
That is such a helpful thing. So in most games, people would just let you use it when you wanted. Obviously, the rules as written, you needed to roll each save one at a time, then choose when you wanted to blank. Most people would just let you roll it, then choose the blank. And because you would just blank the last one.
Right.
Obviously, as rules are written, you can't do that. Now this actually lets you do it that way. And it's just a very nice peace of mind.
Yeah, it's just good information advantage here, right? Like you can see all the saves and be like, oh no, I failed one. No. Yeah, it's just a good, powerful ability. We're very happy to see that this stayed because this detachment obviously is the biggest Magnus support.
Oh, yeah.
Right? So being able to blank failed saves on Magnus is going to be a big deal.
Especially since you don't have free rerolls anymore.
Yeah, no more free rerolls.
Yeah, we don't have any more freebies.
Desecration of Worlds. This is a new stratagem. So this is actually kind of a big deal for us. You do it in your command phase. Select 1,000 Sons Psyker unit from your army within range of an objective marker you control. You now make that objective sticky.
Boys, we did it.
We did it.
We got sticky objective on a non-bad attachment.
We did.
It happened.
I really like this.
Yes.
I think this is really good. Like being able to just fling out, like, say, a little solo disc sorcerer behind a wall, stick it, and then move on.
Even a Tzaangor Shaman. I
Even
would
a
send that
Tzaangor
little 60 or 50, whatever points he winds up being, out somewhere into space and just have him sticky it and then die.
Yep, this is just great. Also, notably, if I believe this is correct, the Umbrefic Crystal is also in your command phase at the same timing as this stratagem.
Yep.
So you can use the strat to sticky that objective and then immediately Umbrefic Crystal your unit.
So nice.
I think that is a huge power upgrade.
The amount of times I've had to stress about, okay, I know I need to Umberlific this next turn just because I'm going to need to get new positioning. I need to rush something back there so I don't just lose primary on my home. God forbid you're playing on Linchpin and you just lose that. So now you can just do that wombo combo and guess what? You gain a CP every command phase. You're guaranteed able to do it.
Yeah. I love this stratagem.
Yes.
I think this is a really big deal. Our next new stratagem is Arcane Focus. So in your shooting phase, just after a psychic test for a Thousand Sons model from your army that channeled the warp specifically, that target, that Thousand Sons model, reroll all of the d6 rolled for that psychic test, including the additional d6 for channeling the warp.
So what I'm hearing is this basically guarantees you cast whatever power you want.
Yeah. Like if you fail on your 3d6 plus 3 Magnus, try again.
Yeah.
I love this. This is going to be great. Or notably, if you don't want to take the D3 mortals for some reason or something along those lines, like it may matter, you can just 3d6 reroll it to protect yourself.
Because that is something that will add up over time, especially if you are channeling, which 90% of the time you are going to channel unless you just roll really well on the 2d6. You are going to be channeling, which those mortal wounds will add up over time because you're pretty much, I think, it's a 50-50, you don't roll a double.
It's like, I think it was like around 40-something%. I actually think it's a little more favorable than a 50, but yeah, same concept.
But yeah, so about little better than half the time, you're just going to take a mortal wound.
Yeah, this is totally fine. This is a great strat as well. Especially since, say, like you're looking for like a Doom Bolt that's super important, right? Or like a Twist of It is super important. this, once again, is another way we can kind of level out the curve and have some more consistency.
The amount of times I wanted to reroll a Doom Bolt, so I didn't get the D3.
You finally get to today.
Glorious.
You finally get to. And then the last strat is the fusion we kind of joked about before, right? So we kept the add additional 9 inches to range psychic weapons in the shooting phase,
Which is good.
and reroll all hits and wounds on that weapon. So 2 CP now, your Magnus or whatever psyker you want goes crazy. Extra 9 inches, reroll hits and wounds. Also, you get your Kindred Sorcery buff, which may be Dev Wounds, extra range, +1 to wound. All of these buffs make this stratagem just go even harder.
So what I'm hearing is Magnus could just be in the +1 to wound stance naturally with his army. He doesn't need to spend the CP to go to Dev Wounds because his big gun's already Dev Wounds. And his other gun is, okay, well, it's strength 6, AP 1 damage to ignore cover. And it is now range 33.
33.
Or if you're in the increased range, it's range 39.
39. Magnus can just strike you from the other side of the planet.
Yeah. I do think for this attachment, the notable loss of this attachment is no more indirect.
No more indirect. I don't think anyone's mourning that. I'm not even mourning that as a
Yeah, that was a little cheesy.
Yeah.
Beyond even my likes.
It just it encouraged a really unhealthy play pattern. And I'm very excited to kind of get back to some classic Thousand Sons of running around the board, casting spells, being fast.
It's going to be a fun time.
Yeah, the only real notable, I think this is a great detachment. It's going to have some CP issues, honestly.
Yes.
No way to reduce CP, no way to get free strats. And you want to use all of these?
Yeah.
You're going to be very, very on top of your CP management. I think that's the big piece.
That is going to be the hardest part. And I don't think you can really afford to use them for a command reroll.
Yeah.
Like, you just need to hope that you don't have a critical saving throw you need to make.
Even fishing for new secondaries, right? That's even tough. You have to be really, really on top of it. I'm very excited to see where this attachment goes. I think this is an upgrade from our index, which is honestly insane to say.
Yeah, the index attachment is the reason we are at the point we are before this book.
Yeah.
So it's nice to see that it's better, but rewards higher level play.
Yeah, I like that a lot. Let's move on to the next one.
Yep. So picking up with the next detachment we have is the Change Host of Deceit. And as Tzeentch demons are, this detachment is full of deceit for both the player and the rules.
There's some very cute tricks in this one.
It is very cute tricks, but I still think the fact that Tzeentch demons are the way that they are, we may have a little bit of a hard time doing that.
There are some problems for sure.
Yes. But starting off with Infernal Pacts, which is our detachment rule, and demons gain the following aura. While a friendly Thousand Sons Psyker unit is within 6 inches of this model, they gain a 4-up invuln against ranged attacks. So
Okay.
the very clear thing here is it is Psyker units.
Mm-hmm.
So you're not giving it to your vehicles. You're not giving it to your goats most of the time. You're not giving it to...
It's pretty exclusive to Rubric Marines.
It is pretty much going to be your Rubric Marines.
Scarabs already have the 4-up invuln, and the characters generally already have 4-up invulns.
So the funny, cheesy thing you could do is you put the character unit in a goat unit.
Oh, yeah.
And you pseudo give those goats a 4-up invuln all the time, which is okay if only there was a detachment that already did that.
And significantly better.
Yeah, weird. So the Thousand Sons gain the following aura. While a Psyker demon unit is within 6 inches of this Thousand Sun unit, they gain the Cabal of Sorcery's ability. Now, you may believe this is a great buff and is super helpful, but like I told you before, demons are full of deceit. You have been deceived. The only thing that they can do is cast the powers, but they can't benefit from any of them.
Yeah.
Because all of the powers except for Doombolt specifically say Thousand Sons unit.
Yeah, and all the demons here have the Scintillating Legion keyword.
Yes.
Right? And then there's nothing in this detachment that replaces that keyword, unfortunately.
Correct. So sadly, all that means is they can cast the reroll hits, and they will not reroll the hits. They can cast the double move. They cannot be the target of the double move. They can cast Doombolt normally. There's no restriction there, but they're not getting any real pluses.
Yeah.
And they can cast the worsen armor, but they're not benefiting from the AP.
Yeah, this is kind of a big miss, it feels like.
I think the only reason you're bringing this detachment, just based on the detachment rule, is you're going to string out a bunch of horrors and give your Rubric Marines a 4-up invuln.
Yeah.
which you could also just do by bringing a character that gets them a 4th invuln all the time, rather than just from range.
Yeah, this is kind of struggling to have some really big power here. I think we really needed to see the demons benefit from those Cabal spells.
Yes. And sadly, as we've seen, the Tzeentch demons in their update, they did not really get a damage buff.
No.
All right, moving over to the enhancements. The first one is Nether Shrike Mind Eater. This is to a Thousand Sons or Lord of Change model only. At the start of your shooting phase, select one enemy unit within 12 and visible to the bearer. That unit must take a battle shock, and if failed, it suffers 3 mortal wounds.
It's not bad.
Yeah, that's okay. It's cute.
It's not bad.
Next one we have is Diabolic Savant. It is to a Thousand Sons infantry model only. While the bearer is within 6 inches of a friendly Tzeentch demon unit, each time he channels the warp, which is rolling the 3rd dice, add 1 to the psychic test.
I like this.
Yeah, it's helpful. I could just also be replaced by bringing a Vortex Beast.
Exactly.
But it does stack.
It does stack.
Which is-
That is kind of the nice thing. There was no stacking restrictions on the spells.
Next, we have Duplicious Malediction. Is a Thousand Sons or Lord of Change model only. After both players have deployed their armies, select up to 3,000 Sons units from your army and redeploy them. And when doing so, you may set them into strategic reserves, even if you've already put stuff into reserves. So it is nice that you can redeploy them, which will help for like the robots that have infiltrate, stuff like that, or your scouts, like if you want to bait them back further and then just move them to online or vice versa. I'm a little disappointed it's not to the demons, so you can't infiltrate a bunch of blue horrors and relocate them. They are just stuck there.
Yeah.
Which is a little sad.
Also, the demons have deep strike, right? So you can go back and get into the deep strike. And another like big synergy piece miss here, it feels like.
And finally, the last one is Tome of True Names. This is to a Thousand Sons infantry model only, which I think is the biggest hindrance to this.
Yeah.
Once per battle at the start of any phase, the bearer can use this enhancement, and if it does until the end of the phase, it has a 2-up invuln. This would have been hilarious on a Demon Prince.
Hilarious on a Demon Prince.
Sadly, it is going to a 4 or 5 wound unit or model, and just hoping he doesn't die.
Yeah, I think you still take this, right? Like, if you're running this attachment, I think this is a pretty powerful enhancement.
I think you take that one in the Diabolic Savant, which is the +1 to channels. I would be very hard-pressed to take the other 2.
Yeah, I think so too.
All right, moving over to the stratagems. So let's see if they're as tricky as their detachment rule is. So the first one is Sulphurous Veil. It is 1 CP, and it's during your opponent's shooting phase or fight phase just after they have selected their targets. You can select 1,000 Sons or Demon unit from your army that was selected as the target of the attack. They are -1 to be hit.
Okay.
So just generic -1 hit. Sure, it's usable. You're probably going to use it most turns. Next one is Deceptive Glamour. This is 2 CP, though. And it's at the start of the fight phase. You target 1,000 Sons unit from your army until the end of the phase. Each time an enemy unit within engagement range of your unit selects targets for attacks, it can only target that unit if there are no eligible demon units for the target of those attacks. The fact that this is 2 CP.
That's really the big restriction here. That's a very powerful rule. Being forced to shoot pink horrors is something no army ever wants to do.
Well, it's only in the fight phase, so they have to fight it.
That's right.
So that means...
Still, you have having to punch pink horrors is something you don't want to do.
You have to think about it this way. People know you have the stratagem, so they're just going to charge the rubrics. They're not going to charge the pink horrors, meaning you have to heroic the pink horrors.
Yeah.
Meaning this strat is effectively 3 CP if you actually want it to go off when you want it to go off. A good player is just not going to touch the demons.
It's just too expensive.
Yeah, it's not worth it. Even with Karos giving you back CP, it's not. The next one is Ethereal Phantasm, not the good Phantasm. 1 CP, your opponent's moon phase, just after they have ended a normal, advance, or fallback move. You may select 1 demon unit from your army that is within 9 inches of that enemy unit and not within engagement range. You can make a normal move up to D6 inches or a normal move of up to 6 inches instead if you are wholly within 6 inches of a Thousand Sons unit. So if you're just a toe over the line, you're rolling a dice and you could just move 1.
Yeah. I like it generally. There's lots of pink horror shenanigans that we're basically looking right here, like reactive move pink horrors, punch my pink horrors.
It's basically a 10-man screen that can just move to be a better screen.
Yeah.
The problem is being within Holy Within 6 is going to be rough for
It's
those
actually
Trinimans.
pretty tough. Yeah.
Yeah. Because if it's just within 6, super easy. You can do that pretty much anytime you want.
Yeah.
But the Holy Within, like, that's hard. Next one is Fractal Disjunction. It is 1 CP during your opponent's shooting phase, just after they have selected the targets of their attacks. You may select one demon unit, excluding monsters, that was the target of one of these attacks. Until the end of the phase, your unit cannot be targeted outside of 18 inches for ranged attacks.
Okay.
The thing I want to be Lone Up 18 is the Lord of Change and Garros, and they are not Lone Up 18.
Yeah.
So if I'm not going to be able to hide from those las cannons, unless I'm just behind the wall, which I'm probably going to be sitting there anyways, it's more or less to stop your opponent from just shooting pink horrors on an objective.
Yeah. Once again, we're pretty highlighting like pink horrors are the main juice here.
Yeah. Next one is Chrono Sorceress Bleed. Can't believe I said that word. 1 CP. Your opponent's charge phase just after an enemy unit has declared a charge. 1,000 Sons Psyker or Demon unit from your army that was the target of the charge. Until the end of the phase, subtract 2 from charge rolls made for that enemy unit. This is not cumulative with any other negatives to charge rolls. So that means it's a good strat for 1 CP. First off, just -2 to be charged is nice. Problem is, it does not stack with the -2 to charge for the flamer.
Yeah.
But it will effectively stack with -2 to move, because it'll be -2 to move and still -2 to charge, but they're already -2 to charge.
Yeah.
So
A little bit of counter synergy.
So you're probably never going to stack those on the same thing, just because it negates itself.
Yeah.
Which kind of sucks. I wish it'd been effectively -6 to charge if it stacked.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of like really interesting rules here. It's just they were really afraid and laid on some pretty heavy restrictions across the board.
I think they're way more afraid of what Tzeentch demons do than
What they actually do.
Yeah. The last one is Glimmer Shift Portal. 1 CP at the end of your opponent's fight phase. You can select 2 demon units, excluding monsters, or 1 demon monster from your army that are wholly more than 3 inches away horizontally from all enemy units, and you put them in a strat reserve. So they go back to reserve. 1 CP, 2 units go back up, perfectly fine.
That's pretty good.
Yeah.
It's above rate, technically.
Yeah, I have no complaints on that one. Overall, I do think this detachment is very lacking, just because Thousand Sons are so good, but the demons are so bad.
Yeah.
Like,
I'm really disappointed here. I really would like to see, hopefully in an update in the future, we kind of pull back on some restrictions here. Like, I don't think if the demons got access to Cabal, like actual abilities, I think it'd be okay. Like,
yeah, what are they? Oh no, Karos is rerolling hits.
Yeah.
Like,
that's it.
Sure.
Yeah.
I guess like the one thing they might have been afraid of is the Lord of Change with Sustain 3 or D3
Rerolling
all of its hits, but at the same time, like, we effectively have that.
I think it's the point of the detachment, though. At the same time, right? Like you want to give the demons the upgrades, right?
Yeah, it's just now basically giving you more attempts to just cast a power that you should have plenty of attempts anyways.
Yep. Okay, our next attachment here is going to be the Warp Meld Pact. This attachment has a lot going on, and maybe a little too much going on is the best way to put it. So the detachment rule we have here is the Warp Meld Sacrifice. Now, before I actually go into this detachment rule, I think there's some units we actually need to highlight that have a new keyword in the Thousand Sons book. So Tzeentch Mutant is now a keyword.
Yes.
The notable units that have it are all Tzaangors of all variety.
Yep.
The Mutalith Vortex Beast and Chaos Spawn.
Yes.
This keyword is going to give you some access to some very powerful buffs.
Oh yeah.
There are 2 paragraphs here. I'll read the first one. Each time an enemy unit is selected to shoot or fight, and 1 or more Tzeentch Mutant units from your army are selected as a target of one of those attacks, each of those Tzeentch Mutant units can make a Warp Meld Sacrifice. In that case, if you do, take D3 mortal wounds, and then until the end of the phase, each time an attack targets that unit, subtract 1 from the wound roll. This is bonkers, genuinely.
Why?
So, Mutalith Vortex Beast, through a 5-foot Feel No Pain, so you're going to take an average of like 1 damage, is a -1 to wound for an entire phase.
Yep. And it's, correct me if I'm wrong, it's not restricted to 1 unit may do this sacrifice.
No, it is each time an enemy unit is selected to shoot or fight on 1 or more.
So there's not even, oh, I'm just going to bait it out. It's, okay, well, I'll just do it on this one too.
They're all -1 to wound.
Yeah. Effectively, your entire army is -1 to wound all the time for the low price of D3 mortals.
When you have a 5-foot Feel No Pain. Like,
Or
not even like
20-man unit.
Yeah. Like, This is a very, very powerful detachment rule.
But surely it can't get any better.
Oh, it does. So the next part of this rule is each time a Tzeentch mutant unit from your army is selected to shoot or fight, before selecting its targets, that unit can make a warp meld sacrifice. If it does, that unit suffers D3 mortal wounds, and until the end of the phase, each time that unit makes an attack, you are +1 to wound. Notably, once again, each time you're selected to shoot or fight. So the Mutalith Vortex Beast Overwatch, for instance, can be 2d6 Torrent, Strength 6, +1 to wound.
Yeah. Or Vortex Beast Railgun is wounding everything on the game on 2s.
Yeah.
With 4 rerolls to hit.
The last part of this here is there is a keyword update. Tzaangors gain the battle line keyword, and they go back to OC2. So they're the Tzaangors you know and love with all the cool upgrades.
Which is going to be so toxic.
So bad. Now we have 4 enhancements here. There's honestly nothing too crazy in this one. Their first one is the Warp Meld Dagger. The Tzaangor Shaman model is the one that can have this. Each time there are attempts to ritual, you can knife your unit for D3 mortals, and then you get +1 to the psychic test for each mortal wound suffered.
That's actually really funny. He's casting.
Very interesting buff.
He could be casting better than Magnus.
Yes, yeah, you can be casting better than Magnus. Now, it's also before you determine the test result. So you get to use the dice, go through the extra D6.
Yep.
Then you may decide to use the dagger to go for the extra D3 mortals. So there has like a lot of gates and steps here in order for you to get all these big upgrades.
That's actually hilarious because the amount of times you're probably going to be like, darn, I'm 1 short. Oh, I'm going to shank my own guy.
Goodbye, goat man.
Oh, and here's Super Doom Bolt.
Yeah, and so this is a pretty good enhancement. I think you'll certainly take a Tzaangor Shaman with this.
Yes.
I think there's no problems here. The Diamond of Distortion, Tzaangor Shaman once again. While this is leading a unit, each time I target an attack, you can make it -1 to hit. So you can have a -1 to hit, -1 to wound Tzaangor unit.
A 20-man -1 to hit, -1 to wound Tzaangor unit.
Yeah.
That seems very annoying.
Now, notably, we can make that unit even tougher, but we'll come back. We'll get there. We'll get there.
There's a little bit more.
We have the Bray Lord, which I think is the funniest enhancement in this book. A Sorcerer or Infernal Master model only. They gain the Scout 6, and they may lead Tzaangors.
That effectively means you get to just choose if you want your Tzaangor unit to have stain hits or lethal hits.
It's cute.
Yeah.
I don't think you want to do it, but it's cute.
It is very cute.
Yeah. And then the last one, Flowing Flesh. I actually kind of like this one. The Tzaangor Shaman model only. The bear has a 4-up Feel No Pain and wounds characteristic of 5. So for our Kabbalistic rituals, a little solo guy with this ability is good at standing on an objective, good at casting our spells, and is like surviving if he takes too many mortals. Just a good upgrade overall. But nothing overtly too powerful here, I think.
No, I do think he's very helpful in just the annoyingness that is a 4-up Feel No Pain.
Yeah.
And on a 5-wound model that does have an invuln is going to be very funny. And I think you're probably going to take 3 detachments or 3 enhancements every time you run in there because of just how cheap the units are.
Yeah, I think so too.
Points.
Yeah, I think Warp Meld Dagger, the Diamond, and Flowing Flesh here are all absolutely great, which does require 3 Tzaangor Shamans, but notably, you're probably going to want 3 Tzaangor
Yeah,
Shamans.
if only they were dirt cheap.
Yeah, only if they were dirt cheap. We have 6 strats here, and we have a excellent strat suite at the end of the day.
Oh, yeah.
So the first one is the Gift of Change. I think this is my favorite stratagem, actually, I think in the entire book. 1,000 Sons character model from your army that was just destroyed. You may then use this stratagem. At the end of the phase, add 1 Tzeentch Chaos Spawn unit containing exactly 1 model as close as possible to where that model died. Notably, there's 1 restriction. You can only use the stratagem once per battle round. But I think getting a Chaos Spawn out of a dead guy is pretty good.
That is effectively sticky objective.
Yeah, it is. Exactly. Like that little Tzaangor Shaman or Sorcerer standing on an objective. Oh no, we died through a gun. Anyway, here's my Chaos Spawn.
And correct me if I'm wrong, you don't need to roll a dice for it. It just
This
happens.
just happens. Yeah.
So that means you have that super durable guy that's standing on an objective by himself. No lone op or anything. And your opponent's going to shoot at him. And you're going to be like, okay, 1 CP, Chaos Spawn's right there.
Yeah.
And he basically shot at it just to kill a guy. And then I still get my primary.
This is great. I really like the stratagem. You will use this. Now, notably, you're going to have to paint some extra Chaos Spawn, but it's okay.
That's fine. I got 6. I'll just bring it all. We're good.
The next strat we have here, this is another very powerful one. The Warped Vistitude. Your opponent's shooting phase or fight phase, just after an enemy unit is selected as target, one Tzaangor's unit from your army that was selected as a target of one more of those attacks, you get a 4-up invuln. So you can be -1 to hit, -1 to wound, and a 4-up invuln.
So what I'm hearing is you are probably using that every turn.
Pretty close, yeah, I would say. Pretty close, because we're going to go ahead and jump ahead to another stratagem called the Twisted Mirage, which is the most important synergy.
Yeah, what does that one do?
So this is going to be 1 CP. You can use this in the reinforcement stuff of your movement phase whenever a Tzeentch mutant is arriving from reserves. So your unit can be set up anywhere on the battlefield. That is either more than 3 inches away. Now we know this can be 6 inches deep strike because of the FAQ. Or it can be 9 inches away if it's a monster unit.
So the Vortex Beast.
So you can deep strike a unit of Vortex Beast anywhere on the board.
That's cute.
Others are pretty good. I think you're probably going to start them all on the board usually, but this is nice if you're on a table you have to.
Yeah, what are you afraid of killing it now?
In either case, though, you cannot declare a charge. But you certainly can use a spell to move again.
Yes.
So say there's this combo where I have a Tzaangor Shaman and 20 Tzaangors with a Diamond of Distortion to make them -1 to hit. And then I can take a Ritual Sacrifice to make them -1 to wound. And then I 6-inch deep strike them after, maybe they uppy downy or something.
This is a 20-man, by the way.
20-man. And then I can 6-inch move into my opponent with 20 models that are -1 hit, -1 to wound. If I have one more CP, I can 4-up invuln them. And I can just tell you to skip your movement phase.
Yeah, just more or less skip your entire turn. Just have fun.
Skip your movement phase, kill my 20 minus D3 models. -1 to hit,
Sure.
-1 to wound, 4-up invuln, guys. You can do this multiple times, by the way, guys.
Yes.
That's the big thing. You can bring as many 20-man Tzaangor units as you want.
Correct me if I'm wrong. Don't all Tzaangors have the innate ability to up down?
They do. You can just keep refueling these concepts, right?
That seems absurdly annoying.
Yeah, this is not a turn 1 through 3 problem. This is a turns 1 through 5 problem.
Yes.
This is a great ability. You're going to be able to flip primary with this, right? Unless they're on the exact frontmost part of the objective, because you can be exactly 1.001 inches away with your unit after this. This is a huge, huge deal. Let's go ahead and move on because we have another, honestly, great stratagems here. Deranged Ferocity. Fight phase just after a Tzeentch mutant from your army is selected to fight. Until the end of phase, each time your model makes a pile-in or consolidate, you can move up to 6 inches. And when determining which models are eligible to fight, you can actually fight within 3 inches, which is a nice little boost for the Tzaangor.
Crazy on a 20-man.
Yeah, crazy on a 20-man. And then when resolving those attacks, it's just the select enemies within 3 inches of the unit.
Yeah.
So notably, you can't go anywhere you want with this 6-inch pile and consolidate. You actually still follow the same 6-inch pile and consolidate rules, so you don't have the cute little tricks that other people get. Yeah. You still get a 6-inch pile and consolidate.
Still great.
20-man Tzaangor units. You want to go kill a thing, tag another thing. You can hope you kill a thing with 20 Tzaangors, but
Here's tying it up.
The next stratagem we have here is 1,000 Sons Psyker model from your army and 1 friendly Tzaangor unit from as below starting trait. And when 12 inches of that Psyker, you can just res D3+1 guys.
So are you just telling me that I can just keep reviving the guys that died for being -1 to wound?
You can.
Oh, weird.
Yeah.
So it's not actually losing guys.
No, it just costs you CP. But other than that. And then you have Touched by Tzeentch. Start of your movement phase. 1 Tzeentch mutant from your army. Until the end of the turn, you are eligible to shoot or declare a charge in turn in which you advance. So your Mutalith Vortex Beast can shoot or charge in turn advanced.
Or your 20-man Tzaangor unit that can reroll advances and charges.
Could just go.
Yeah, you can just fly off into the distance and annoy the crap out of your opponent.
So, for the first time in Thousand Sons history, we have a Tzaangor detachment. And it's not a meme, guys.
The goats are the goat.
It's real.
It's actually, it was not on my bingo card.
It was not on my bingo card either. Well, having the Tzaangor detachment definitely was on my bingo card.
Having it be probably the best detachment in the book
was not.
Definitely not
on
there.
your bingo card. Yeah, I think we are going to see quite a few nerfs at the end of the day to this detachment. I think this is going to be really, really powerful.
The blue tide is going to be very scary.
Yeah. Get your 3 Mutalith Vortex Beast, your 6 Chaos Spawn, and however many Tzaangors you want.
And the Tzaangors aren't that expensive anyways. So you bring your Vortex Beasts, you bring those, and there's still, you could just have Magnus sitting in the back. You could have those tanks sitting in the back.
You still get more stuff. Yeah. Yeah, this is just great.
Yeah, it's let's say 600 point tax with characters and 20 mans involved.
Oh no.
To make your opponent not be able to play the game until turn 3. Or turn 5, sorry.
This is just excellent.
It's crazy.
Yeah. Let's go ahead and move on from this one.
Yeah. All right. Now we have my favorite detachment here, the Rubricate Phalanx. So they have finally brought back
All
of dust. With one key change, which is fair. It is each time an attack with an unmodified damage characteristic of 1 is allocated to a Rubricate unit, which is your Terminators and your Rubric Marines, add 1 to the saving throw made against the attack. So the unmodified one is a big change because, as we'll see a little bit later, there is a -1 damage strat.
Yeah.
And as in previous editions, if you're familiar with All Is Dust, it just said damage 1.
Yeah.
So you used to be able to make a damage 2 into 1 and then get +1. You can no longer do that, which is fair. That would have been very
good on Terminators.
Very good on Terminators and just very toxic in general.
Yeah.
But it is still a very good rule because the amount of just damage 1 shots from like Eldar or things like that you're going to be taking on your Rubrics and Terminators to basically turn off Warp Spider's AP that they gained for free is super nice.
Even like indirect, like into a Rubric Brain squad, you're probably saving on 2s now.
Yeah.
Because notably, it's important to highlight the restriction here regarding cover.
Yep.
So cover, you don't get to go to a 2-up right if it's an AP 0 attack against your 3-up armor. However, there's nothing stopping this ability plus cover, right?
Yes.
So it can be an AP 1 mortar, which doesn't get reduced, right? It's still AP 1. So it gets around the rule. So you can get +1 to your cover save and then +1 another cover save because of All Is Dust.
Yep. That is a very key thing to keep note of and be sure that it is phased correctly.
Yeah.
When how you're explaining how your armor save is being affected.
Exactly. It's a very specific math.
Yes. Thankfully, you can phase it that way.
Yeah.
All right, moving on to the enhancements. The first one is Risen Rubric. This is a blast from the past. Thousand Sons model only. At the start of the declared battle step formation, select either 2 Rubric battle line or 1 other Rubric unit, so either 2 Rubric Marines or 1 Terminator. Models in those selected units have Infiltrate.
It's actually important to note that the Terminators have the Rubric keyword. This is new. Yeah.
It's very good. New there. And also a key thing about this enhancement is the character does not need to be in either of those units.
Yes, that is actually quite a big deal.
So you could just have a solo this sorcerer that has this ability doing objectives off in the distance, and he just picks 2 rubrics that have 2 different characters in them, or a Terminator that has the Terminator sorcerer in it, and they now have Infiltrate.
I love
combine that with Ahriman.
As a Ahriman is the big deal here. Being able to combo robots plus infiltrating Rubric Marines or Terminators and redeploy them, that is so good.
I think you can just have 5 infiltrating units that are all terrifying to deal with.
You could have absolutely 5 infiltrating units in this army. It's crazy. Really good.
All right, next one is Arcane Thralls. This is an aura enhancement. And it says, while a friendly Rubric unit is within 9 inches of the bearer, you can reroll battle shock test.
Okay. I like it.
Sure. It doesn't matter as much anymore because you're not relying on your Cabal points.
Yeah. If it's cheap enough, you'll just throw it in.
Yeah. The next one we have is Lord of the Rubric. Again, Thousand Sons model only. While the bearer is leading a unit, each time a Rubric model in that unit makes an attack, add 1 to the hit.
Great on a Terminator sorcerer.
Yes, and it no longer makes them reliant on trying to get their own +1.
Exactly. And there, notably too, this no shooting restriction here. This is also includes the fight phase.
Yep. So that means all their melee, if they're hitting on 2s now at 5/2 too, which is super helpful. And the last one we have is to a Thousand Sons infantry only. Sadly, no Demon Princes here, which would have been great for this. The bearer's melee attacks have sustained D3 and dev wounds. So you're pretty much putting that on an Infernal Master all the time just for the flip 6.
Yep. This is nice. Another one that if it's cheap enough, you'll just throw it in.
Yeah. All right, moving on to the stratagems. You have Ardent Automata. This is 1 CP and it's in your movement phase just after a Rubric unit has fallen back. Basically, that unit is eligible to shoot and charge the turn in which it fell back.
This is excellent.
Yes, the amount of times that you get tagged, you need to fall back or just hope you like Doom Bolt or pistol shoot your way out of the combat so you can still do your thing. Now being able to fall back, reshoot, or just charge if you're the Terminators is game changing.
Yeah, especially since the Terminators are such a tar pit unit. Like your opponent's not really going to kill them and sometimes they can get stuck on things. But you fall back, fire all those guns and keep going. No complaints here.
Yeah, no, super good stratagem to have in pretty much any army.
Yeah.
Next one we have is Inexorable Advance. This is 1 CP, and during your movement phase, you select 1 Rubric unit from your army. That unit will ignore all modifiers to its move characteristics, advanced rolls, and ranged weapons by models in that unit have assault.
Also, absolutely love this with models on a Rhino.
Yes.
Because 6 base move, 3 inches with the disembarks. We're at 9. You can double move up to 6. We're at 15 inches now.
Yep.
And then you roll 6 on the advance, which, it's probably going to end up being about 3 inches. You can go up to 21 inches before your Rubric Marines have fired one ability.
A single gun. It is crazy.
I also love this, like an Infernal Master unit with a bunch of Flamer Rubrics or something like this. It's like the prime target for us.
Oh, yeah.
Like this.
Because then they still get the benefit, well, at least the Infernal Master will get the benefit of the +1 to wound.
Yeah.
I know it's a Flamer, so he doesn't get the +1 to hit. And then just doing all of that, because it's all assault now, is actually very good. Or even a bunch of bolt gun Marines, which we may get to getting out of that Rhino, is going to be very funny.
Yeah.
Speaking of which, Infernal Fusillade, which is 2 CP now, sadly. But it's during your shooting phase. You select 1,000 Sons Psyker unit from your army that has not been selected to shoot yet. Until the end of the phase, all bolt weapons, just Infernal, bolters,
all
bolters,
stuff.
all that stuff, gain the Psychic keyword and Strength 5.
This is good and a nerf in some ways, right?
2 CP is rough.
2 CP is a lot.
But the fact that you can give all those bolt guns that are now AP to ignore cover, now Strength 5,
+1 to hit.
+1 to hit, +1 to wound
from a Rhino.
is pretty good. They're just firing off some damage.
Yeah. Notably, the Terminators get basically nothing from this. They get Strength 5. And that's about it. I don't think there's any other psychic synergy.
There is no other way for their psychic weapons to gain any buffs from this, because in this detachment, there's no innate buff like in the index.
So this is very focused on like a 10-man bolter Rubric Marine
Blowing out of a Rhino.
Hops out of a Rhino and can do a bunch of damage. I'll have to honestly do the math and see if that's kind of worth it. I'm interested to see.
Yeah, no, definitely want to see how it actually works out, because at that point, like, +1 to hit, +1 to wound, and you can even give it sustain because of that point.
Yeah.
So it's worth putting the Infernal there, which normally you would probably want to put the regular Sorcerer for lethals.
Mm-hmm.
But it does some decent damage with the AP for ignore cover. It could probably mess up like heavy tanks.
Quite a few things, honestly. Yeah. So I like it. I think that's a really interesting buff.
I think it's going to be the main damage dealing from this attack.
I think so too.
All right, moving on to the Revenge of the Rubric. So this one is a little bit more complicated. It's 1 CP, your opponent's shooting phase just after a Thousand Sons Psyker model from your army was destroyed. So only the model matters here. 1 Rubric unit from your army that is within 6 inches of a Psyker model when it was destroyed. After the attacking unit has shot, your Rubric unit can shoot as if it were your shooting phase, but can only attack the unit that destroyed the Psyker model. So a key thing here is what you could very easily do, going to the cheese strap before with the Exalted Sorcerer, you can allocate it onto the Psyker model first, kill him off, have the Rubric unit that was just targeted, let's say if you have enough guys there or just one nearby, shoot back with their own character into that unit, and then in your command phase, you revive the dead Aspiring Sword.
Yeah, I actually like the strat. It does require some pretty particular setup and management, right? I think around like some skilled opponents, this might be kind of hard to key off.
Yes.
However, the threat of it is what really matters, right?
Yeah. The funny thing is, I looked at this and I was like, oh, I could finally Overwatch Eldar now.
You can.
That's the only way.
Yeah.
All right. Next one we have is Implacable Guardians. This is 2 CP and only works on Rubric Marines that still have their Psyker in it. During your opponent's shooting phase, just after they selected their targets, you select 1 Rubric Marine Psyker unit. Until the end of the phase, each time an attack is allocated to models in this unit, excluding the Psyker models. It is -1 damage.
It's good. 2 CP and no Psyker models is, I think, the toughest part here. And the no Terminator.
No Terminators.
There was certainly some big Terminators being a little too good for you in this detachment.
Yes. Sadly, you cannot make your Terminators -1 to wound and -1 damage.
Unfortunately.
With all his dust. It is sad, though, like before, it would modify the damage characteristics, so you're not getting all of dust off of it, which I think would have made it balance out, because it won't work on the Psyker guys. But sadly, once those regular rubrics are dead, the Psyker just takes the 2 damage and gets hurt.
We are great against plasma guns now.
Oh, yeah.
This is a great plasma gun upgrade.
Oh, yeah. Definitely liking that.
That's about it.
And the last one we have is Unwavering Phalanx. It's 1 CP during your opponent's charge phase, just after an enemy unit ends a charge move. 1 Rubric Marine unit only. Until the end of the turn, each time an attack is targeted to your unit, subtract 1 from the wound roll. So basically, you get charged, you target the Rubric Marines that were charged. For the rest of that following fight phase, they are -1 to be wounded.
I think there are some breakpoints. This is going to be pretty good.
I think it's helpful since it's 1 CP.
Yeah, I think the 1 CP is kind of the big going for here. You have a lot of 1 CP strats that you want to use, but they're all a little bit situational. So I think you're going to have some CP floating around every now and then. So I think this has a good suite of strats. I think the detachment rule is not always going to be relevant, but good enough.
It's definitely helpful into a lot of melee armies that like horde armies like orcs or our world eaters now, because they're AP1 damage 1 with the berserkers. It allows your rubrics and terminators to basically be almost invincible to them.
Yep.
Because you're just like, okay, we're AP0 now.
Yeah, I like this a lot. I think it has good mobility, it's just fair, balance.
Yes.
I think it has a much more balanced approach to the game. And since I don't think you bring Magnus in this detachment.
I don't think so either. I think you want to bring as many rubrics and terminators as you can.
Yeah, and I think you can really MSU, spread out the board, kind of like play a more board control style rather than just like delete your opponent.
And I think if you are going to bring anti-tank, you're actually probably going to bring the tanks. Because the tanks, when you just fire any of the psychic weapons, which you have a lot of now, because you could just fire off one rubric aspiring sorcerer pistol into the distance, or just doom bolt it.
Yeah.
And now that thing is just destroying whatever anti-tank that you just can't deal with.
Yeah, I think this is our best like combined kind of arms.
Yeah.
Spread out the guys detachment.
And it is super nice to see a detachment where, even though they're not benefiting from 2 of the main stratagems, giving the Terminators a place to really shine is super nice, especially since they've been borderline unplayable.
They've been rather neglected for a while now. Yeah. Okay, so the last attachment we have here is the Warp Forged Cabal, or as we keep calling it, Magic Storm. Or
Let's go.
This is going to be all focused around our Thousand Sons vehicle, and notably our new robots, our vehicles.
Yep.
So this is a cool place. You can probably use them. Each time a Thousand Sons vehicle unit from your army is selected to shoot or fight, apply one of the following when you resolve those attacks. If the vehicle is within 6 inches of one or more friendly Thousand Sons Psyker models, you can roll 1 hit roll, 1 wound roll, and 1 damage roll, which is really nice. Otherwise, you can roll 1 hit roll, or 1 wound roll, or 1 damage roll.
Yes.
Notably, you're going to always be next to Psykers in this one.
That shouldn't be hard.
This shouldn't be difficult.
Is it Psyker model or Psyker unit?
Psyker models.
Okay, so you do have to be very careful where you place those aspirings.
Yep, exactly. I like this overall. I think this is a good buff to the tanks. We already have 4 rolls to hit, but getting a wound in the damage roll when we have solid guns and las cannons is really quite nice.
And it does help if you're not shooting the oath target.
Exactly, as well. There's one last ability to this. So then each time a Thousand Sons vehicle model from your army explodes from the Deadly Demise ability while it's within 6 inches of a Thousand Sons Psyker model, it explodes on a 5 instead of a 6. I think this is actually a downgrade. I don't think we actually want this.
Yeah, I think there's been very few situations where I've wanted my thing to explode, especially when I have rubrics within 6, because they have to be within 6.
Exactly. I think you're kind of killing your own stuff here.
Yeah, I really don't like that rule. I wish it wasn't there, but I guess the trade-off of reroll a hit, wound, and damage is worth it.
It fits the sacrifice theme of the Thousand Sons book in a way, right?
And it's kind of like you're overcharging the vehicle, so I get it's full of warp magic, so it explodes easier.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Let's move on to the enhancements. The first one we have is Warp Siphon. It's actually complicated, but very good enhancement. It's for a Thousand Sons model only. While the bear is within 6 inches of one or more friendly Thousand Sons vehicle units, each time the bear channels the warp. After you roll that additional d6, but before checking for doubles or triples, the bear can use this enhancement. If it does, select one of those vehicles that vehicle will suffer 1 mortal wound, and then you get to re-roll that additional d6. So notably, this is only the channel of the warp d6 you get to roll. It's very, very specific on that. However, that's still plenty fine. That's still very good.
Yeah, getting a reroll basically that 1 dice is super nice. Now, don't get me wrong. It's actually really good for the sheer fact that you're just not going to channel if you roll like Snake Eyes.
Exactly.
It's like, I'm just not going to do it anyways. So it's nice when you roll well on the doubles, but then you roll on your 3rd dice a 1 or a 2, and you're like, oh, I'll just reroll this.
Yep. I like that because of the decision tree that we just talked about.
Yeah.
I think it's good. The next one's the Perplexing Cloak, Thousand Sons infantry model only, while it's within 3 inches of one or more friendly Thousand Sons vehicles against Lone Op. This is great for this detachment.
Perfect.
Have a reliable caster to get your spells off, being able to protect yourself. Just good.
And even just the Terminator Sorcerer, like we talked before.
Yeah, exactly.
Getting +1 to hit for the entire army.
Yeah, I think that's probably what you will probably use.
Yeah.
Mechanical mutation, Thousand Sons model only. In your command phase, you can select one friendly Thousand Sons vehicle. It regains D3 lost wounds. It's okay.
Sure.
All right.
It's a Tech Marine.
Warp Curse Rune Master, Thousand Sons model. While this bear is within 6 inches of one or more friendly Thousand Sons vehicles, each time this bear manifests a ritual, you get an extra 6 inches to your range. It's not bad. I actually kind of like this because
It's
versus with like a Grand Coven, it didn't really make a lot of sense. But now the tanks are in the back, shooting down the firing lanes, being able to shoot a little bit farther with your Doom Bolt. Key off the abilities. I think this is actually a pretty useful.
Yeah, I think you probably take that one in the lone op, and if you have points, you take the reroll channel.
Yeah, I think that makes sense too. The first stratagem we have here is just AOC for vehicles called Hex Marked Armor. It's great.
It's AOC.
Yep, just good.
Yeah.
Mutate Landscape. You use this in your command phase. It's for 1 CP. 1,000 Sun Psyker unit from your army within range of an objective marker you control. That objective marker is mutated and remains under your control. Just gets sticky. The important part of the sticky is while the marker is mutated and under your control, every time an enemy unit ends a normal, advanced, fallback, or charge move within range of the objective marker on a 4-up, they take D3 mortals.
Yeah, so it's basically you trip mine.
Yeah.
The objective.
Just generically good. It's still 1 CP and has upside. So I think that's always nice. Cyber Spirit Machinatons. Your movement phase just after a Thousand Sons vehicle falls back. If it's within 6 inches of a Thousand Sons Psyker unit, notably after you fall back, you can now shoot and declare charge.
Very good.
This is really good on the robots.
Yes.
Very good on the robots.
Because you can build them to be very mixed attackers. So you can still fall back, shoot, then charge something. And even if you just make them full guns, just fall back and shoot.
So good.
With their profiles are great.
So great. Malevolent Animus, 1 CP, use this in your command phase. 1,000 Sons vehicle unit from your army that's within 6 inches of the Psyker. When you use this, the vehicle becomes malevolent. When it's malevolent, it's going to ignore the following: the profile characteristic of the model, the weapon skill and ballistic skill characteristics of weapons equipped by the model, and any roll or test made for it. So it's going to get around hit restrictions, movement restrictions, even toughness reduction from Death Guard or something along those lines. But notably, this doesn't get around -1 damage.
Yeah.
That is the big thing. So the weapon, you can still AOC this because it excludes saving throws from the restrictions. You can still AOC, still -1 damage, but it's going to hit as good as it's going to hit.
Yes. So it's very good. It basically means it's ignoring almost all mods except for the damage.
Yep.
Which is in, obviously, armor or armor saves. But it's still, honestly, if you're playing in a Death Guard or something, I'm probably popping that most turns.
Yep. I think this is great.
Yeah.
The last, or not second to last one. Enscrolled Infusion, 1 CP, you do this in your shooting phase. 1,000 Sons vehicle that is once again within 6 inches of a Thousand Sons Psyker. So at the end of the phase, all ranged weapons become psychic and are just +1 to wound. They're going to use this every single turn.
Yep. It is insane. 1 CP +1 to wound with our vehicle lineup is crazy.
Yeah, this is pretty unrestricted, honestly. Like, this is pretty easy to do.
So I think, funnily enough, it will have like one random nerf because all the weapons are considered psychic.
Yeah.
So if you're playing up against Grey Knights or Thousand Sons Mirror or just any other army that may have a psychic feel no pain,
I think it's just fine.
Sure, but at the same time, you just don't have to pop that there.
Exactly.
Yeah.
This is a excellent stratagem.
Yeah, it's insane. For 1 CP, that's crazy.
The last strat here is Warpflame Gargoyles. Your opponent's charge phase just after an enemy unit ends a charge move. 1,000 Sons vehicle from your army that is within engagement range of said unit. Roll D66 for each 5-up. That enemy unit suffers 1 mortal wound and then must take a battle shock test. This is actually pretty relevant because a lot of enemy units like in melee need strat support in order to really pop off and kill vehicles.
And this is also just a pseudo no-you grenade.
Yeah, and like also this protects your primary. It's sneaky, but it's actually pretty good.
If it works, it's hilarious because your opponent's just kind of left there, no damage buffs, no OC, and they're taking on average like 2 or 3 wounds.
Yeah.
Which could just kill a guy.
Yeah. I love the stratagem. I think we have an excellent stratagem suite, excellent rule here. I think Psychic Storm, Magic Storm is going to be a very real detachment.
Yeah, I think it's going to be very good.
All right, so next up, we are going to talk about some points now.
Yep.
What do you think they're going to do with our points?
I hope they go down. I'm tired of paying the Cabal point tax, so let's see an actual operating army that has actual points that are real.
So my big fear right now is that our rules, I think, got a little better, is my big fear, right? Is that maybe we're going to stay still, stay super elite, stay there, but let's crack it open and find out.
Yeah, so let's go ahead and get started. So starting off with Big Papa himself, Magnus the Red. He is currently the same as his back of the book points at 420 points.
That's down from what he's at right now, so I think that's great.
That's 45 points cheaper.
Yeah.
I could not argue against that.
I'll take it.
Ahriman, though, is now 100 points, which is different from the back of the book.
Yeah, I think that's probably fair. I think I'd like to maybe see him a little cheaper, though.
Yeah, especially with the loss of the +1 to wound.
Mm-hmm.
100 is still a little much, but I still think he's worth bringing.
He does bring a redeploy, right? And an extra caster. So maybe the extra casting is just going to make him strong enough.
Yeah.
Okay, next up we have the Infernal Master. He's down to 85 points.
Yeah.
This is actually a huge deal. That's so cheap for this guy.
Insane.
Regular Sorcerer, 75 points.
Even crazier.
I think we were going to sense a theme very soon.
Oh, yeah.
Exalted Sorcerers down to 80 points.
Perfect.
Exalted Sorcerendus down to 100 points.
Yeah.
Our
Good
characters being so expensive was like such a big problem. So I think seeing the rewards of we're no longer glued to Cabal, we're allowed to have more units on the table now. They do lots of damage to those. We're going to see how this is going to go.
Hey, I'm super happy about it. All right, moving on to the next batch. The Walking Demon Prince is at 180 points.
It's good.
Yeah, definitely good.
It's a
And
viable
his
place cost.
winged brother is going to be at 170. So
Cheap, maybe.
I will definitely take that guy. The Sorcerer and Terminator armor is down to 85 points. So helpful.
That's okay. All right, next up we have the Sekhetar robots. These guys get a huge go up from the back of the book, 90 points for 2 or 180 for 4. I think this is perfect to actually get to play them.
Yeah, they're now in the same point range as Chaos Spawn for pretty much every other army, which is insane.
Yeah, I am very excited to actually see what we can do with these guys because
Oh, yeah.
before they were genuinely unplayable on back of the book points.
It was crazy.
Next up, we have our Scarab Occult Terminators. It's going to be 180 for 5 or 375 for 10. 180, I think, is a great points cost for the 5-mans.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Especially with the always -1 to be wounded. It's great.
These are great little skirmish pieces. The 375 tax, or the extra points we have for a 10-man, probably reasonable. Usually, 10-man Terminators are always better when you juice them up.
Yeah, and that's extra special weapon of each is worth the point value.
Rubrics, 100 points for 5 and 190 for 10. I think the big thing to highlight here is that both our characters went down and our Rubric Cranes went down. So we're saving easily 100 points on the list alone from these changes.
Oh, yeah, and having those units be sub 200 points now is just a fresher breath there.
Yeah, no longer in Cabal jail, so it doesn't feel terrible for trading them early. They're cheaper, so it feels better. Just huge go up.
Yeah, for sure.
Next up, we have the Predator Destructor. This is 140.
Yep.
And then we have the Predator Annihilator at 130. I like the Destructor cost more. It is just a better unit than the Annihilator. Next up, we have the Rhino. Now, we're going to pay more points. It's 90 points now. But for a significantly better rule...
Hey, 5 more points for +1 to hit and wound when I get out of it with psychic weapons? Sure.
What about my regening wounds, Mike? My Rhino's going to die.
They all knew that was a fake rule. That was never being used.
Next up, we have the Vindicator at 185. Pretty expensive. However, it gets access to some pretty significant buffs in our army. I think 185 is probably appropriate.
An Oath of Moment +2 AP Vindicator.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think 185 is fine.
That's quite a bit.
Land Raiders are going to stay the exact same at 240. It's a Land Raider, nothing crazy here.
Yep.
Hellbrutes are down to 110.
Not cheap enough.
Yeah, not cheap. I don't think we're ever bringing a Helbrute in pretty much almost any army except for maybe World Eaters.
That's about it.
Next, we have the Forgefiends. Those are up to 140 in this book, and they're the exact same as before. I believe this is a points drop from previous. I think they were 145.
I think so. I think the Predators outcompete the Forgefiends.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
Next, we have the Maulerfiend at 130, which is cute. I still don't think we're going to bring it.
I think the main issue is, once again, we're still just competing with the Mutalith.
Yeah, exactly. And next, we have the Defiler at 165. It's another cute option. I think it's just going to be, for its point cost, too hard to move around the board.
165 is kind of interesting, though.
Yeah, but you have to move it. We don't have any move through wall strats.
That's kind of cheap for what he does. Like,
I know, man, but where are you going to put it?
I'm a little interested.
We'll test it out.
Yeah. Next up, we have the Heldrake at 215.
Skip.
Yeah.
Yeah. Next one.
Unplayable. Chaos Spawn, 65 points. This is actually really quite cheap for Chaos Spawn.
Oh, yeah.
I really like this. Is not a change for where we're currently at with Chaos Spawn or anything like that, but they're technically improved and some of our trash shifted around points wise.
Yep.
I'm very happy with this.
I think they're now our cheapest unit after the Enlightened Tzaangors.
Yeah, I think so too. Tzaangor Shamans, 55 points. This is a great points cost for these guys. I think they were 60 right now. I think they get down. And as a little solo caster, I think this is maybe great.
Yeah, especially when you're bringing the Warp Meld detachment.
Yeah.
That's going to be a very valuable point cost.
Yeah, because now that the Shaman, like, it used to only generate one Cabal point, right? But now it doesn't anymore. So now, being a cheap caster is just so much more potent. I really like 55 points for these guys. Tzaangor Enlightened spears and bows are going to be the exact same points cost here. It's going to be 3 for 50 or 6 for 80. I really like that 6 for 80 on codes.
Yes, that's super helpful. And I'm super happy that the 3-mans went back down to 50. That's such a nice, easy, even points cost to just make list around. 55 can get a little dicey sometimes when you're just like, oh, now I'm 5 points over.
I think the spear goats needed to be cheaper here.
Yes, I don't really see a main reason to bring them over the reactive moving sniper bow goat.
Yeah, I don't think so either. I honestly think maybe spear goats needed to go down to like 40 points or something like that.
Yeah.
Next up, we have just our regular good old Foot Tzaangors, 70 points for 10, which is 5 more points than what we currently pay, but they got some significantly improved abilities, so I think that's fine.
Yeah, scout and up down is really good.
The thing of note here is that it's 160 for a 20-man. The mutant detachment is going to get reined in just a little on that.
They may have had a little foresight on that one, which I'm very glad to hear, actually.
I'm glad we saw the future on that one.
Yeah.
And then the last one, the goat that we've talked about so much.
Our
The Mutalith Vortex Beast is 160 points.
Oh, he's back, baby.
That's insane.
Yeah.
Genuinely
great.
That's kind of crazy. I think you're going to see 3 of these in your near future.
Probably minimum 2 per list.
I think 2 per list is probably appropriate. I think 3 in mutant detachment for sure, and maybe 3 and more.
Yeah, I 100% agree.
Too good.
Yeah, they're always great. And to wrap things up with the demons, again, the demon rules are the exact same as they currently are in the Warhammer app when they got updated. But going through the point cost real quick, so some of them did change. Kairos is going to be 260. A Lord of Change is 250. Flamers are going to be 65 for 3, 130 for 6. Screamers are going to be 80 for 3, 160 for 6. Pink Horrors, notably, are down from 140 down to 115. Just a key note, they are 1 OC less, so they're only OC 1.
This is pretty significant, actually. 115 is a very hefty points drop.
Yes, dropping the 25 points definitely matters for them. They do still have the split mechanic. They have all the other same rules, but the blue and brimstones are now OC 0. So when you split, you're not maintaining any of that OC.
That is actually the really hard part.
That's the hard part. But also speaking of points drops, blue horrors dropped down to 90. They were previously 115. So that's another 25 point drop. That does matter, but again, they're OC 0.
Only if we had some other infiltrators for 90 points we can use now.
Yeah, exactly. Weird. How does that happen?
How does that happen?
Alrighty. Well, that is going to conclude the Thousand Sons Codex review.
The one thing to note for the points here, guys, they are subject to change still until they're posted up in the app or uploaded onto Warhammer Community. Just keep that in mind. However, these points are great.
They're amazing. We're going to be spamming so many Rubric Marines, so many goats, so many Vortex beasts, so many characters. I'm super excited to just be playing this army at a not overcosted point.
Yeah, I don't think there's any list I'm thinking of right now that isn't going to get all of the toys and maybe some more.
Exactly.
Yeah, so I think this is great. We're very happy with this book.
10 out of 10 point cost.
10 out of 10 point cost for sure.
And with that, folks, we have reviewed the Thousand Sons Codex.
Wow.
Yes.
This is quite the book. I don't know how we walked out of this with buffed data sheets, buffed detachments, improved cabals. I think if I'm a Thousand Sons player, I also just love that I get to roll Psychic Test again.
Yeah.
I can't explain to you how happy that just makes me.
That was my biggest worry coming into 10th was the Psychic phase is gone. And I'm kind of like, oh, well, I like the Psychic phase. Yeah. That was fun. And I think this book did a lot of what I was hoping it would do. Is they basically just took the army and scrapped the entire Cabal system, which is nice. And they just built it from the ground up. So it's now actually an army. There's no more of this, I need to have 18 Cabal points so I can do 19 Cabal points and do my double Doom Bolt, move back into a Rhino strat, any of that. It is now, I can build my army how I want, and I get to do my army rule regardless.
Yeah, and like losing 1 unit of Rubric Marines on accident isn't devastating to the rest of your game. I think this is excellently designed. I think the only fail here is the Demon Detachment. I think our data sheets are great. I think our army rule is great. This is just a really excellent book.
Yes, I'm super excited to be playing it. I know me and you are both going to be playing a lot of stream games coming up.
We certainly are.
Testing out all the new detachments. We're going to have to do rock, paper, scissors or something on Hank Gets Forced to Play an X-Warp.
So on that note, guys, don't forget, you can watch us play, one of us, play the army right now in the War Room. If you just go and start that free trial right now, and you can see all of the juicy magic details right there. One more time, I want to just thank M3 Studios for a lot of these lovely commission painted models over here on this side of the wall. Don't forget to like, subscribe, comment down below, and thank you so much, guys, for joining us. Don't be afraid to add us in the Discord if you have any questions.
All right. See you guys later.